What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 232. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, alongside my dear friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hi guys, how's it going? It's game of the year.
It is indeed game of the year. And Connor, it wouldn't be game of the year if we didn't also bring in our big buddy, Big Chill Phil himself, Phil Shoemaker. Say hello. That didn't fucking work. There he is.
There we go.
Jump scare. do the Five Nights at Freddy's edit.
Kevin, your job.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Let me double check real quick. Make sure
I think
all the
it
other
was
cameras
so
are
it was
good.
so quick, very off topic, but it was so quick after Deadpool and Wolverine came out that when they're fighting in the Honda Odyssey,
Yeah.
and Deadpool's like, the Honda Odyssey fucks hard, not like you do, Needle Dick, and then he's like, and then Wolverine jumps through the windshield. Like in it, they did the edit for Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay,
doing
cool,
that.
cool.
So it's like, ah!
That's a scary sound.
Fascinating.
It is.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, like Connor said, this is our top 10 games of 2024. We each have compiled our own lists of 10 games. We're going to go through each individual list, and then at the end, I'm going to give you the official list of Two Penny Games top 10 of the year. Of course, you can catch the show every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Or you can watch us record all of our podcasts live over at twitch.tv/2pennygames every Monday afternoon, including our episode of the Piggy Bank, which we just recorded doing our 2025 Fantasy Critic Draft. So make sure you go check that episode out Saturday, 8 a.m. Central Time, all of the podcast sites that I just listed. And make sure you follow us on social media. Links are in the description down below. Make sure you follow us on TikTok for as long as we have TikTok, for the next 15 days maybe. And if that doesn't do it, or if TikTok gets banned in the United States like we think, we have an Instagram account. Go follow us on Instagram. Link is in the description down below. Follow us on Substack, where Connor writes all the news articles that we read off for the Gamescast on a normal episode. Because, of course, this is the Two Penny Gamescast, where each week me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. This week, however, a little different, because we're doing our top 10 games of the year.
Indeed.
Gentlemen, how did we feel about the year of 2024?
Solid.
Very amazing. I loved it.
I think it was quite good. We didn't have like a lot of like top tier crazy bangers, but we had a lot of really, really good games. Mm-hmm. And like I think I've labeled other years as like swimming in sevens, and it's just like an all right year or whatever. This year, I think we kind of ran that full gambit of here's some top tier amazing games. Here's some really good ones. Here's some okay ones, and here's some dog shit.
Yeah.
And running that gambit really led to a very dynamic year, and it actually made it very difficult for me to put my list together, just because I reviewed all the shitty games this year.
You really just assigned yourself all the shitty games because you wanted them to be good.
Yeah, I'm not doing that again. We're gonna talk about that off mic for all of that stuff. But gentlemen, are we ready to get into it? We're gonna start talking about some greatest games of the year. All right.
I played 36 games this year that came out.
I didn't.
36.
36.
Jesus.
That's a lot of games.
36. I say played, like, the least amount of time I spent with one of these games is like 2 hours, 3 hours.
Oh, okay, yeah. Gentlemen, as always, we're gonna go in the order Connor, Phil, Tavin when we give our games out. How the list works is we're gonna start at number 10. And we're going to work all the way up to number 4, all right? And then we're going to take a break, and we're going to do honorable mentions of the year, right? Just 3 games that we played this year. They didn't have to come out this year, but we played them. We really liked them. We want to just give a quick shout-out for. And then we're going to do our top 3s. Now, the thing about the 10 through 4 section, if we name a game that is in our... If Connor names a game that is in my 10 to 4, so if his 10 is my number 5, for example... I will jump in on the conversation. We will have that great talk and give that game the praise that we want to give it. And I will say, hey, it's also on my list. I won't reveal the location on the list, Connor, but I will say that it is on my list. All right? And then when we get around to 5, I'll say, hey, yeah, it was game X. We can move on because we already talked about it. However, If it is in our top 3, we are going to allow each of us to be able to nerd out about that game and give it all the love we want when we get to those top 3. So if Connor's number 10 is my number 2, then I will remain quiet until number 2 comes around. And then I will nerd out about number 2.
Indeed. Also, a quick shout out to Olvi hanging out in our Twitch chat. Hate to break it to you, it's going to be on all 3 of our lists. Whatever you're, I mean, not to spoil for the video because they can't see you, but it's on all 3 of our lists. Not going to say where.
Why would you not want that game? That game is awesome.
It is incredible.
About? Anyways, Connor, start with you, my friend. Number 10. What do you got for us?
Number 10, very auspicious, Astrobot. I ended up playing more of this game.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Not at all. No.
Number 10.
Yeah, definitely.
Out of 10 games.
Yeah.
You're a coward and an idiot.
You see, that's probably what Tavin was saying, that I'm a coward, though that's a game that not only won Game of the Year at the official award ceremony, so you guys ranking it super high is cowardly on your parts for going with the crowd.
We knew where it was going to be on our list before we even watched the Game Awards.
Ultimately, these guys are weak because they, when it doesn't go the way they envision it to, act like apes, barely coming out of the caves. But the reason why is I played more of it.
You are wrong.
It's a solid game all the way around.
It's a great game.
It's a solid game all the way around. It's a great game. Yeah, I'd agree. The thing that holds it back from being higher on the list is, first of all, in my personal taste of things, platformers need to do something special, right? This game plays solidly well across the board, has great, cool, fun mechanics in it, but at the end of the day, I'm a 27-year-old man, and I have
that has nothing to do with anything.
Playing it. It has everything so much to do.
That reductionist view on a genre is ridiculous.
That's so lame as hell.
Ridiculous.
It's not reductionist
There is
on
no
the genre.
way.
Hey, be quiet. I'm saying my game.
Jesus.
Because I'll let you speak. The reason it's not reductionist is because the game's very bare bones. It doesn't do things that are, it has cool mechanics level by level by level, but they're not things that have a lot of depth to them. Super amounts of depth.
Dude.
You know, we played It Takes Two a couple of years ago. That game plays around with a lot of systems, just like this game does. This game does it better, but ultimately, when I'm playing through the game, I'm not having the same highs as some of the other games I ranked higher on this list.
Your thing about depth, looking at your list, because I know the list, looking at your list later, that argument about depth doesn't make sense.
It comes forward when the depth, well, the lack thereof of depth, not lack thereof, but the kind of gameplay that Astrobot facilitates is, it doesn't go any crazy, like, into any crazy direction for me. The main reason I put it on this list is because of the fact that it has a good weight for what we are currently in with this gaming culture of games taking forever to make and having all of this, you know, high fucking budget bullshit that just makes games takes longer and longer and longer to make. This one did not have that, despite being an extremely pretty looking game, an extremely smooth to play game for something that took 2 years to make, by all accounts. And so, ultimately, while all of these things are, you know, praises that can be sung, more so for what comes down the line rather than right now, seeing as how the impact has yet to be felt, obviously, and won't be felt for a couple more years due to the fact that the thing that this game could kickstart, kind of going into a different direction of how games are made, you know, is going to start being applicable when games that have yet to go really in, you know, to depth, have yet to really go into the, you know, motions of making the game. Like, for example, the Wolverine game. We know that that's a game that's taken years to make. It's going to have a lot of, you know, a lot of shit that you can do within it. It's probably going to have pretty, you know, photorealistic characters, which already takes a pretty good long time in development. And moving away from that direction, I think, is the proper way for the games industry to go in. And Astrobot puts it in that right direction while being a super fun game that's very playable by all ages. But once again, the reason why I'm ranking it as low as it is because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a game I'm not going to want to play over and over and over again for hours and hours on end. It's a game that I want to play over a long period of time because I'm not getting a lot of meat to chew on with that game.
Well, yeah, I disagree. You brought up It Takes Two. I disagree wholeheartedly.
Well, they're both games that play around with like specific systems.
No, because It Takes Two gives you 5 different games, and none of them are that deep. Astrobot is one game. And the difference in gameplay comes from context in which you are applying those mechanics. It Takes Two gives you 5 different game mechanics that you pick up and put down.
Different contexts.
And then pick up and put down, and then pick up and put down. Astrobot is the same all the way through. And then through context of level design And level gimmicks, you are allowed to experiment, and that's where the depth comes from. When you become a small little mouse and you pop back out, you're still got the same controls of the little mouse guy. When there's a level where the weather changes hyper dynamically depending on where you are in that level, like that's context added. Are you on ice? Are you underwater? Are you in sand? All of those things are where your depth comes from. Your argument about platformers and puzzle games as well has always been super reductionist and does not give credit to the masterclass of design that those genres are able to deliver upon.
I'm utterly dumbfounded, flabbergasted even. It's also on my list.
You didn't need to say that part, but it's fine.
Because I know where it is on Tavin's list, based off what he said a little while ago.
That may have been a little bit of a hint, but moving on. Phil, you're number 10.
Sorry, the X is a game that I didn't play long enough. That's the game. Looking at my little notes. Because I give little ratings to how I feel about the game.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't play it long enough to actually rate it.
To care.
To rate it.
Fair.
My number 10, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
Heyo.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even know he played it.
I didn't know he played it either.
I've logged roughly 10 to 14-ish hours. I don't know exactly how many. It's not in my recently played, so I can't check on my PlayStation app to see how long I have played it. Not that that's always the most accurate in terms of playtime. Almost always just completely wrong.
Yeah.
But no, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is super fun. As someone who grew up with those Dragon Ball Z Budokais, your Tenkaichis, the same series, and it's just a revival and a love letter to fans of that series. It's extremely fun. I love the story mode and the kind of like what if scenarios you can get in if you do certain things differently. Like if you defeat Vegeta, if you face Raditz in the first, like in the Saiyan arc, right? If you're familiar with Dragon Ball Z, I'm losing Tavin here for a minute, but I'm talking to you, Connor.
Yeah, I'm producing. Hold on.
No, I'm just saying because you don't know anything about Dragon Ball.
Oh, gotcha.
Where if you defeat Raditz if you like full on say no to Piccolo joining you in the Raditz fight, and Krillin comes with you along with Master Roshi and Bulma. So you fight Raditz at first with Krillin and Goku, and then Piccolo joins you later, and because of that, you have all the assistants, and Goku doesn't die.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so Goku doesn't die. Then when the other Saiyans come, Goku's there to fight alongside them, so nobody else dies in the Saiyan fight with Vegeta and Nappa. And so in that, it's also more interesting because when you defeat Vegeta and Nappa, Frieza comes to Earth rather than being on Namek because he's heard tell of all the Dragon Balls and everything. So he comes to Earth with the Ginyu Force and everybody. And because of all of this and none of his friends die, they all team up to defeat Frieza, and Goku never learns how to become Super Saiyan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he's never pushed over the edge by the death of Krillin.
Right.
So it's super interesting that there's all these different what-if mechanics that can happen through all these different sagas with all these different characters. And it's really, really fun. It's a great fighting game mechanically. I'm not a big fighting game guy, but I fucking love Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi.
It's a love letter to Dragon Ball, and all of it operates within the realm of a 3D fighting game, which very often those suck. And they've always been able to make it work.
So fun, dude.
Yeah.
It's so fun. That being said, I haven't dove into that much of like the online. When I did play it, I was almost pure storyline and doing all that kind of stuff to try to get all the different sagas and different what-if outcomes. But no, it's a hell of a game. Very, very fun.
It is also on my list.
No, it's not.
I'm the only one that played that.
Yeah.
My number 10, a game that is newly added because I've just now started playing it within the last couple of days. I'm not done with it. I will play more of it. It may rise a slot or two. I don't foresee it getting any higher than that, if it rises at all. And that's The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. This is a fun little take on a Zelda game, man. A good little twist. I think it really, really encourages creativity and exploration in a lot of really cool and creative ways. It's just the sort of clunkiness of how it goes about combat and how you engage with an enemy NPC, I think can more often than not be kind of frustrating. And the sort of like little small things that they add in there, like the little like Spirit of Link mode where you then get to swing a sword, isn't enough. It just it just every cool thing that it does, it also does another thing that holds itself back. But the quality is there, the charm is there, the fun is there, and sort of going around each room almost as if it's its own puzzle, treating the environment in different ways and what you can do with the echoes is a lot of fun. And you start just instantly creating sort of habits with the echoes of like, okay, I want to get up this cliff. To do that, I got to put 2 crates down, a smaller table so I can jump onto the crates, and then a trampoline on the second crate, and then you use that in very simple ways. I imagine it's going to expand from there as I continue to get echoes and as the game continues to show me all of the depth of that specific system. But it being around that system also just kind of halters back on some of the fun of it. But it's overall a really fun game, and I thoroughly am enjoying it and recommend it.
Yeah, it's also on my list. I kind of want to piggyback off what you were saying with the kind of getting into the motions and your habits with some of these echoes, and it changes as you progress through the game, where like you'll get things that are better for this situation, like in terms of scaling like a wall or getting like making a staircase. That also kind of ties into other mechanics in the game where like you can add little charms to Zelda or like give her like different equipment.
Yeah, I found one of the like hairpins and stuff like that. Yeah.
So there's one that like essentially doubles the height of your jump.
Oh
so,
God, I need that.
Yeah. So instead of using half a table, you can just jump a crate.
Yeah. Need that.
So you use even less echoes for like smaller stacks, And I love how that game kind of builds on itself as you go through different dungeons and collect more echoes. I'm a big fan of how the playground kind of keeps uncovering more bits of it.
I'm so far in my experience, I'm enjoying the side quests more than like the main quest of the game.
No, absolutely. I'm fully on board with you. If I can make a quick analogy, it's almost like that game opens you up on like a buried sandbox, and as you progress, more sand kind of gets blown away to reveal more bits of the playground.
Similar to a certain game mechanic within the game. Connor, we're moving back over to you, my friend. Number 9 on your list.
1717. Time code.
Look at that.
I like that.
Look at that. Go ahead. What's number 9?
For my number 9 spot, I went with a recent title, Marvel Rivals. A game all of us have sunk a pretty good amount of time into.
Also on my list.
On my list.
Mm-hmm. I wonder where.
Not that far apart.
I was waiting for you to say it's on my number something spot.
No.
Okay.
We'll get there when the number comes.
Yeah. I know. I was like confused for a second. Anyway, being able to take what has become very generic and bland hero multiplayer game 6v6 and revitalize it by adding characters that all feel super unique to play and fun to play. Very rarely have I ever come across a character in that game and thought, this one's just not that good. Not for me. Skip it. While also just coming out the gate and being surprising. As, because we thought it'd be fun, but we thought, it might just have a short-lived life cycle. It had some, it had a lot of room to fail and be in that realm of another hero shooter. But it's been able to break out of that mold and be its own thing. And I can already see the pipeline of us playing this pretty consistently and with other people as well down the line. Obviously, some issues like not having enough color schemes out the gate, not a good loot box system.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, some bugs. Bugs initially that kind of went by the wayside, so it didn't really impact it. That was my end.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. Scratch that. It didn't have bugs. That was my graphics driver that I needed to update. So never mind. Yeah, but
PC
even
gaming.
yeah,
Fucking, am I right? Come on now.
PlayStation.
They make it too easy. They make it too easy.
But just being such a super fun game that's going to have a long life cycle as long as they don't fuck it up. And the fact that they've
it remains to be seen how long the life cycle will be.
It's true.
It doesn't seem like they're going to fuck it up. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Connor. I think the variety in characters. I think it also just being Marvel and allowing super identifiable characters that players already have an attachment to really allowed for a foundation of success for this game. And I think the game is just a lot of fun. And for all the complaints about balancing in the game, it's funny how like there's not a set meta, and it's funny how like dependent upon player experience, the meta changes per player, not necessarily for the game as a whole. I wonder if they're going to be able to keep that kind of going. I feel like they will, just because there's so many characters, and they're going to add more. And so yeah, I'm really, really engaged with Marvel Rivals. I think it's a lot of fun to play. How long will I be in it? I don't know. That really depends on how fast they can crank out another season, because I think this initial season was pretty lackluster.
Battle Pass.
Yeah.
That Battle Pass is not great. The cosmetics, all the bells and whistles of the game are not good. But the game at its core, I think, is a lot of fun and pretty dang good. It does have issues, but it's pretty dang good. And yeah, I see myself playing this game for probably another year.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that kind of excites me with it. So Marvel Rivals kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't sure, like from announcement, I was like, well, I could see myself kind of getting into that, but then I wasn't sure. Early access previews were kind of mixed on it a little bit, and then yeah, when I finally got my hands on it, I was like, no, this game's good. It's
Quality.
good. It's good. It's fun. It's quality. And it's fun to just. Yeah, the immediate attachment to characters, knowing who Thor is, knowing who Iron Man is, knowing who Spider-Man is, like that really does help in caring about the game, because in a game like Overwatch, which popularized the genre, sure, you grew to have attachments to characters like that or whatever. Sure. But going in, you didn't know who any of these guys were, so you didn't like really care. And that led to just like, that's a wall that you got to get over with Overwatch. Rivals doesn't have that problem. So it's sort of just a checks and balances of it. I still do think Overwatch is a better overall quality game, at least from the last time I played it.
Right, 2016 to 2020.
Yeah, it was a while ago. And but Rivals, I think, is a great competitor and a solid substitute if you're looking for a substitute. Phil?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think in terms of that initial barrier isn't there, kind of like what you were saying for barrier of entry. In terms of kind of buying into the characters in the game itself. And these are just widely known characters. And sure, we might initially gravitate to some characters off the bat just because of like our own affinity for like this character in the comics or whatever media we've seen. But then we'll get our hands on sticks and we're like, oh man, this character doesn't play I'm not very good at this character at all. And then fucking Spider-Man, right?
Breaks the heart. Breaks
my heart. At least you're good at one Spider-Man character.
Hey, man, I found that Penny Parker, bro.
Yeah. But no, and then, there are characters that were maybe on like my like bottom, like characters that I still like in the Marvel universe, but ones that are like, oh, I'm not gonna be super into that character playing them. And then I'm like, oh my god, this is my main,
Fucking why the fuck would I want to play as Mantis? Oh shit, because she's awesome?
Winter Soldier, I mean, yeah, he's pretty cool. But then you fucking armed and dangerous! Fucking,
again!
So good. So good.
Phil, we're gonna stick with you here.
Okay.
Number 9.
My number 9. This is one of the most Phil picks on my list, on any of our lists. Sonic X Shadow Generations, baby! It's the year of Shadow the Hedgehog.
It is.
Fucking Sonic 3, incredible movie. Very good. That movie was made for me.
Incredible?
Yeah,
incredible.
Harsh word.
Okay.
Strong word, actually.
Incredible. Fucking live and learn, bro.
That was awesome.
That was cool.
And then,
so cool. They're getting sued.
Not
them. They had it. They licensed it.
They licensed it. Yeah. They licensed it for the movie.
All the other ones.
It's the games that have the issue.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sonic X Shadow Generations, it's still good. Like you have what we already knew was a great game from, I think, 2011 or 2010 when Sonic Generations, the first one, came out.
That sounds right.
I think it's 2010. And that game is still really good. And then it's just a good port for at least the Sonic Generations part, which I have already 100%ed because that game's great. And then they just added all these different mechanics for Shadow. The Shadow Generations portion of it, he plays a lot more like Sonic did in Sonic, what was the game? Frontiers. In terms of like the stage to stage, but they just tweak it just enough to make it better. Like he's Shadow the Hedgehog, he plays exactly like you think a Shadow is, an edgier version of Sonic, right? So he plays exactly like that. Instead of a homing attack, he fucking teleports and kicks dudes in the head. It's super cool. They added all these cool dark powers that he has from because he's an alien. He has like alien DNA in him. And we have the revival of which something you don't know this, Mephiles from Sonic 06. He's in it. It's so good. It's so good. Sonic X Shadow Generations. I was not expecting it to be like even on my list. I was like, yeah, I'll play it for sure.
But it's gonna. But
like, it's not gonna be on my list. But
Sonic shovelware. But it's fine.
Dude, it's fucking great.
It was a lower key game. I didn't see like anything about it.
Came out the same day as Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Same day.
Probably why.
Also, I think because it's attached to the Sonic Generations
Yeah.
port remaster.
It's not. It's actually more. The Shadow Generations part of it is more substantial than I thought it would be. The hub world for Sonic Generations is just literally a 2D space that you go left and right of. And that's what I thought Shadow Generations was going to be like. But no, it's full on like this big open zone like in Frontiers, where you're just going to all these different locations in this white liminal space, and you go to all these levels from the past. Like there's a Sonic Heroes level, there's a level from Sonic 06, there's a level from Shadow the Hedgehog. There's levels from all kinds of games that just weren't in the original Sonic Generations, or at least didn't have as much representation. And it's great. It was very, very cool. And it's also the collectibles in this game, in the Shadow Generation specifically, seem like they're going to be kind of a bitch.
But you'll do them.
I'll do it.
I
I'm
know you
platinuming
will.
this game. I don't know when, but I'll do it.
My number 9. The Plucky Squire.
It ended up here, huh?
It's in there. It's in there.
Yikes. I guess you weren't on hot on it.
He didn't like it.
Yeah.
He didn't like it. I like it. I think it's a fine kids game. I think it's fun enough. And yeah, I think its sort of use of word puzzles and stuff is fun and cute and creative. And there are times in the game where it does allow you to sort of make a little joke out of it and so forth. I think the biggest problem with this game is that its gameplay does not evolve. What you are doing in moment 1 is exactly what you're doing in the final moments, and it does not range in difficulty, or like it does not have a new twist on that gameplay or in any type of way. There is some sort of there is like a little bit of dynamicness just in the fact of like it jumps from a 2D game to a 3D game, and sort of the different twists in gameplay that they'll put on those from level to level. I think I think their biggest mistake is structurally they wanted to make every level have a 2D and a 3D segment, and I think they should have been switching level to level from 2D to 3D instead. So this is a full 2D level where we get to experiment with mechanics. Here's a full 3D level where we get to experiment with mechanics, instead of feeling pressure to apply both to every level. I think its story is good. I think it's charming. I think it's overall like a memorable experience. I think more than anything else, the charm is what speaks through in this game. I think its characters are likable enough. I would like some heavier writing if they were to do a sequel of this game. And I think Plucky Squire, if you've got a young kid, it's definitely worth a check out. And yeah, I think this is a solid game this year.
And with that, Tavin, you're going to tell me, as much support as you pretended to show it, Concord's not going to be on your list?
No.
You're going to have to get through the rest of the 10 to find out, Connor.
I don't think it is.
I think a little skin something hanging off the top, right on your brow.
I've admitted.
There
There
you
it
got
is.
it. It fell off. It fell off.
There's the next. I can eat that later.
It's turning to dust.
Jesus Christ. Connor, let's move on.
Like Goldmember.
Yeah, exactly.
Little piece of skin.
Connor, number 8.
Toit like a tiger.
I had to double check to make sure I was looking at the proper time. Number 8. Mine is going to be Persona 3 Reload.
Oh, wow.
Persona 3 Reload. Don't act like you're surprised.
It's also on my list. I don't know your list like that.
Fair enough. But yeah, Persona 3 Reload. Persona 3. It kickstarted the current trend of Atlas games. Persona 4, 5, now Metaphor, and when playing it, you see it. I think they added some extra things, but definitely compared to other Persona games and Metaphor, there's less stuff to do in the day by day moments. That being said, it's got extremely fun combat flow and level flow. The procedurally generated areas of the tower remind me that's probably the strong suit of Atlas games comparative to 5. Metaphor kind of breaks that mold a little bit, but it has fun characters to go.
I'm sorry, is Metaphor procedurally generated, or is it fully fleshed out design levels like 5?
It's kind of hard to say.
Pretty sure they're
because
fully fleshed out design levels.
they seem to be, but you kind of just do them in one go, as opposed to other Atlas games where you kind of have to take it piece by piece by piece.
Okay.
From what I did play of Metaphor, it was that first big dungeon that you go to. It's the same every single time. There's if anything, they'll just respawn enemies, but it's the same. It's not procedurally generated.
Makes sense.
I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, but Persona 3, I Might have rated it higher if I got more in the story.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to clarify. It's also the same enemies every time. They just respawn them. They just bring them back to life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When we say procedurally generated, there's like a bit of an asterisk next to it because like it's more or less the same every time. It's just clearly like they've let a randomizer pick what that floor is.
Oh no, that's not the case.
But like floor 3 is going to have the same floor 3 design every single time. It's just like, or every single time you play the game, it's just like clearly like they picked whatever the procedural generation is.
I get you. At least in that first big dungeon that is the only one I've experienced in Metaphor. It is just that procedurally generated thing.
I've always been a fan of the procedural generation for these games.
But enough about Metaphor. Back to Persona.
Well, yeah, I wish I got farther in the story because I know it gets to greater heights. Unfortunately, I do know what those heights are like, but it would have been different actually watching it. The Persona system is extremely fun. How it works in tandem with the enemies you fight, getting that flow of, find weaknesses, exploit weaknesses, take them out efficiently by doing those all-out attacks. Move on to the next, and it constantly changes it up as you go through these levels to where you're constantly experimenting with things. It's just a super solid game. You really see the beginnings of those Atlas games come forward here, while also having great UI. I think it's the best UI I've had in a Atlas game that I've played. I like it more than 5 and Metaphor. 4 I cannot comment on, but it comes up very seamlessly. The nice blues, leave a very calming effect.
Looks gorgeous from what I've seen.
Looks very gorgeous. It stuck in my mind as a game that I thought would end up higher by the end of the year, but there were just so many good ones out there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Persona 3 Reload is also on my list. It is a little higher though. Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you with everything you said. I really, really like this game. I have not played as much as I would have liked to have. I think I'm in the 20 to 30 hour mark, somewhere around there.
It's a long game.
Yeah, I'm well into the second dungeon. My feelings of this game are a little strange because these Persona games are pretty similar from iteration to iteration, whether it's 3, 4, or 5. And so you just kind of, for the most part, just kind of pick your favorite amongst those. Mine still remains to be 4. By the time I finish 3, I still believe it will be 4. Now, 5 is a different question. I'll just have to get to the end to know that part. For everything Persona 3 fixes for me, that's a problem in one of the other ones, it develops another problem that isn't a problem in the other ones. The problem for this one is your main cast takes forever to grow bonds with. I think I've only got one developing bond in the main cast as of right now, but at the same time, that makes the extras of the story, the ones who you only meet in school or whatever, have a little bit more focus on them and allows their stories to be a little bit stronger than they are in the other games, which I appreciate that as well. So yeah, it's just sort of like a push and pull with all of these games. I kind of feel like this is going to be weird to say because it's pretty much the same every time, but this might be my favorite combat of the 3. I don't really know how to fully explain that because it learns lessons from 4 and 5, obviously being a remake of the original P3. But I just find like they found the right balance between all of the sort of like rock, paper, scissors elemental mechanics of the game, and then being able to pass it on to the different players and stuff. But it doesn't feel as overpowered as the Baton Pass in 5 felt. But I've still yet to get to a point to where the combat challenges me. So yeah, all of that we're going to have to see later on. But yeah, I really, really like Persona 3. At some point, I will beat it and probably love it just as much as I love the other 2. I'm kind of playing it at the same pace that I played Persona 4, where I'll pick it up, play it for a little while, put it down, come back later.
Yeah, because that was the thing when you did that with 4. It went from like, oh, I really like this game to this is one of the greatest games I've ever played.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that these games are able to be so scaled.
Yeah, whereas 5, I kind of crammed 5. But I've also played 5 more than once. So, like...
You know it.
I know it, And so, yeah, I'm, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. I kind of feel that way with all 3 games.
You have the Platinum for P4?
No.
No, okay, but you have the platinum for P5.
Yeah, P5 Royal is a very easy platinum. You could get that in one go.
Okay.
If you plan correctly.
Yeah, if you just go through, there's tons of guides I've seen.
There's a bunch of guides out there. I had to do it in 2 just because I thought I had more freedom than I did.
Yeah.
But the second playthrough was so easy because they actually have a new game plus in 5. So
nice.
5 Royal. So the P4 platinum is much more similar to the original P5, where like you have to complete the compendium and get 100%. You get 100% that shit.
Gotcha.
Whereas P5 Royal, it's basically just max out stats and that's it.
Yeah, I'm curious if when I do get back to Metaphor, if it'll become kind of like, because y'all talk about how your first persona is your favorite persona, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm curious of like when I finish Metaphor, then when we get to like, I assume I'll start Persona when we get rolling on the game club.
Yeah. And I want to test that theory of first Persona being a favorite with you.
Yeah.
So
and I'm the control group.
Yeah.
There, you know.
Yeah, I really want to see how you think those games play because I think you'll like them a lot.
Anna, to your point, aesthetically, I think I do like P3 the most.
Mm-hmm.
With the blue and the menus and all that.
From what I've seen, it just looks super, super nice.
It does.
I really like
clean.
Even from when they were first showing off like the start menu like last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you just kind of like have the dive into the water, just like, oh man, that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Sexy.
Well, what I think has happened there is the Persona team gets too messy because they love let's throw style all over the screen and just get it everywhere. This isn't the same Persona team. It's a different team, and I think they have found a better balance of like, okay, yes, let's be stylized, but let's keep it clean. And I kind of like this the most.
Yeah.
Other than that, like from a functional perspective, I like 4 more than 5. From how it looks, I like 5 more than 4.
A 3 more than 4?
No, I'm talking 5 and 4.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you Freudian slipped there.
There we go.
Phil, my number 8.
Number 8.
Marvel Rivals. We already talked about it.
Heyo.
Fun game.
We already talked about it. Marvel Rivals also my number 8.
Nice.
Oh, really?
Hey.
Yeah, there it is. Right there.
Twinning.
Same spots. So we're just going to jump right back over to Connor for number 7.
Got the finger on the pulse with you guys. You guys hold each other's dicks while you pee at the same time?
We might.
Might.
I hold it with my lips.
Okay.
I
That's
pee into his
different.
mouth.
This is a different act than peeing at this point. This is a game, you guys were clowning on me for Astrobot. I feel more ashamed of not putting this higher. My number 7 spick is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, see, that's
also
more
on my
warranted.
list.
We'll get there.
Yeah. I know exactly where it is for you. I think I know exactly where it is for you. I don't know. But I think I know what it is exactly for you. But Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, the most underrated game of the year.
By far.
Easily.
By far.
Like Concord, Firewalk Studios.
It just didn't get its day in the sun, you know?
It never did. No. It could have with the holiday seasons, but they canceled that and the studio. Or they canceled any planned sequels. They definitely canceled the studio. And this is a game that has a combat system that has way more depth than you would think it would. And Tavin, you've described it as being kind of like a fighting game with how you do directional inputs to do different moves. And there's basically not a single wasted move. You can make use of that entire moveset, and each and every single one is fun. The story being pretty not that great is kind of lost in the fact that you spend lots of time exploring all those nooks and crannies in a very well laid out map that allows you to traverse it very well with having picture points where you can keep track of things rather than just a clouded map system with tons of little markers that just constantly stay there until you get rid of them. You have a lot more control over how you decide to map out the map. And the map has a lot of cool shit to go through. Whether it's new upgrades, new talismans that allow you extra little cool abilities to make the game a bit more efficient, more so than it already is, while also just having it feels so smooth to play. From the slide, from the jump, from the dashes, from the use of basically creating a mirror image of yourself to play around with fun, simple puzzles. They don't stay simple. They don't stay simple. They do not stay. They get more complex and complex.
It won innovation and accessibility, right?
Yes.
Think so? The reason why I can see it not ranking higher than the other ones is because I played it the least in this table. I didn't even get all of the depths of the abilities that you unlock.
This is why you're a coward.
This is why I'm a coward.
You should know off of the experience you have already, it's better than other games on that list.
The problem is that it's so close in quality too.
It's really fucking good.
What?
It's really
It's
fucking
Oh, I
good.
know. Yeah. So this is one. Like I said, it makes sense that it's lower than some of these games because I didn't play it as much as some of these other games.
I think I was so hooked on that game at the time. Like I think I platinumed that game in like 2 sittings.
Damn.
Like it was, or 2 or 3. It was
3, huh?
very
I
short.
think you got it over like a 4-day period, 4 or 5 day period.
I don't remember, but I
was fast.
I was in that game.
Phil, are you in a place where you can talk about it?
Uh,
Do you want to add on anything more to that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as yeah, I can absolutely talk about it. Prince of Persia: The Last Crown is like my first. It's my first Prince of Persia game. But like it's unlike any of the other Prince of Persias, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
It, however, is not my first Metroidvania. But it's quite possibly like it's easily top 3 Metroidvanias I've ever played. It's up there for possibly being one of the best. It just loves its own ideas so much that like everything just layers onto. There's layers upon layers on the gameplay where like you'll get one ability, which I mean, I'm just about to describe a Metroidvania where like you'll be at one spot, you're like, oh, I can't get there yet, and then you'll get an ability. It's like, oh, let me go try to find that. Let me go back over here and use that ability, and there I am. I'm in this entire new area.
Just off of that point, Prince of Persia kind of hides it better too. Where like a lot of Metroidvanias, it's like, this is a green door. All right, I got to get a green ability to unlock the green door.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia kind of hides it in ways to where you're like, oh, they put a spike on this wall so that the player can't get up past that spike.
Right.
Makes sense. But then eventually you do get to be able to go past that spike, and you
Absolutely.
realize there's so much more to that level.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, fuck. It's so well good.
It's so well made. Like I also am super into like the boss fights and like the level of challenge and kind of character that these boss fights and Tavin always like to say the attitude of this game and like the combat that like has attitude, and it's just so good. It just feels so good to play. I'm a really big fan of like a lot of the platforming challenges in this game too. There's some of these rooms where you'll just enter and you'll have to remember, oh yeah, I can do this ability so I don't get killed by this, and then you'll get killed by something right after that. It's like, oh, I need to be in a different spot when I use that ability. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that's like about to hop onto this game.
One of the most basic abilities in any 2D game or any Metroidvania ever is a spoiler that it's in the game.
I know, yeah.
That's crazy.
Right. And it just feels so good to play. It's definitely it's one of the best feeling games to play of the year.
And a lot of good feeling games came out.
There's a pretty good amount of good feeling games to play.
Yeah.
This one might be the best feeling game to play, but it's not my personal best game of the year.
Style galore.
That's hard to gauge. Yeah. It's top 3 for sure for best feeling game.
It should have been first person. Is this
What?
This is something else, right? I just saw that.
I mean, he's got to be talking. No, that's new. He's got to be talking about
That is
Prince
brand
of
new.
Persia. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a weird
Phil,
thing.
jumping over to you
I'd be
for
sick.
number 7.
My number 7
Ah,
is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom,
hey, fun game.
which we talked about.
Fun game. We
I
talked
didn't think
about.
that would be as high.
It's good.
It's good.
It's good. Number 7, Silent Hill 2,
Mm-hmm.
the remake. This is a game that actually kind of took me by surprise with it. This is by far the most uncomfortable video game I've ever played in my life. It is dreadful to get through in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think its level design is pretty good. It's at its best when it's replicating. Oh, thank you, sir. It's at its best when it's replicating Resident Evil. But even when it's not doing that, it's still got its own flavor and sort of uniqueness to it that really keeps it interesting and pushes you forward from moment to moment. And I think my biggest problem with this game is its combat. I think it is very basic and repetitive. And at some point, it just kind of becomes monotonous. And there's always supposed to be a point in survival horror where the monsters aren't scary anymore. But the ideal way is to power up the player so that the player is more brave. That doesn't happen here. What happens here is the player just learns the intricacies of the enemies to the point of they just become tedious and monotonous and like just hyper repetitive. So even though like they're still gross to look at and they still make disgusting sounds and noises and they are uncomfortable to be in the room with, when I do engage with them, it's just all right, you're about to swing this way, and then you're going to do a counter swing again, and then I dodge both of those, and then beat the fuck out of you, and you die. Like that, like you just learn the NPC behavior to the point to where like they just lose their luster in that way. But every time I enter a room and I hear one of them breathing, I go, oh God, one of those things. Because just like the art design, the sound design of this game, it is incredible. The lighting is so good too. This might be the best game that utilizes darkness I've ever played. Like, I've never felt like a game that is intentionally trying to be dark has been this intentional ever before. To where like it is frustrating, but you are frustrated because you know you are supposed to be. And yeah, good puzzles, creative level design.
When it gets cool with it.
I do just think it might be a little bit too long.
That's fair, and it increased it from the original game. The combat system, because it's on my list as well. The combat system is the biggest thing holding it back, but I think it's not as bad as it otherwise would have been for many other games due to the fact that the key thing is the game keeps you on edge. Yeah. So the lead up to those fights are always, uncertain. Because you never know when things are really necessarily going to come at you or what you're going to encounter or how you're going to encounter them. It's just the moment they do engage you, you're like, okay, I know what I'm dealing with now. Let me beat the shit out of it. Because you do that pretty easily. And the boss fights are a little bit lacking. Not the most diverse.
They're very well designed. It's just how you engage with them is boring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was that one specific boss fight. I'm not going to spoil it in any way, but there's that one specific boss fight. Connor saw me enter that boss fight, and it was the one design of the fight that I didn't immediately go, oh, that's cool. Every other boss fight, I'm like, that's cool when I see one. But this was the first one I was like, that's lame. And then I beat the boss fight, and the hidden layer of what that design meant was revealed. And I went, oh, that's all. Oh my God, you are a sick and demented artist for creating this. That's
I think you mentioned that boss fight on a previous Piggy Bank.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
And that game it has those punches to throw at you.
Yeah.
And it's one of the greatest horror games I think ever made, solely because of how scared you are and uncomfortable you are the entire way through.
I agree. Yeah. I don't think it's like the scariest game ever, but it's not. It's the most uncomfortable.
It's the most consistently scary, which I think makes it on the same level as the scariest games of all time.
Yes. I'm on board with you, but not as much.
Yeah. Horror's a thing you feel.
Yeah.
So,
again, like, I wasn't super scared during this game. I just really didn't like what I was doing. Like, I just really wanted to be. It was like the game was constant, and in some ways it is. It's like the game is constantly throwing up on you, and you're just like, this is gross. I don't want to be like. You ever had someone throw up on you before, and you're like, this is the worst thing that could have happened to me.
It's usually like children.
Yeah, and you're just like, I really wish I wasn't here right now. Yeah. Like, ugh. Like, yeah, it's that 100% of the time.
And I will touch on the fact that I like the narrative. It's not like a super in-depth narrative. It's very bare bones, but intentionally so, where you're kind of like, you're uncertain about, like many things, of what's going on in Silent Hill 2. And that extends to the characters as well. And it creates an interesting experience.
If they just put more on the bone, if they put more meat in it for the narrative, it would hit for me, because it's not even that it's bare bones. It's deep. It's a deep narrative. It's just there's just not a lot to chew on, just because there's just not a lot of cutscenes, and the cutscenes aren't connected to each other really. Like you're kind of standalone in it, and I have weird feelings about the narrative of the game.
Fair enough.
Connor, moving on to number 6 for you.
I didn't play it.
I would want to see how you would play that, Phil, because you'd be scared.
Hidden through my fingers.
That's very fair.
You'd get vomit on.
You would. My number 6 pick is Silent Hill 2 remake.
Hey,
so we just talked about that.
Looky there.
Which means we're moving on to to Phil, number 6.
My number 6 is a little game. This year for me, good amount of like multiplayer going on this year, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the big juggernauts this year. Helldivers 2.
What?
Helldivers 2, my number 6 pick.
Also on my list.
This game,
mine too.
Very, very good. Very, very fun. My first foray. You guys played the original Helldivers. I did not. I hopped in when it came out in February, and we had a whale of a time playing Helldivers. And then, more recently, right after the Game Awards, me and Tavin hopped in and played some Helldivers.
You know the Illuminate went away?
What?
Yeah, they were only on that planet, and so when the Helldivers won that planet, they went away. Connor didn't get to play with the Illuminate.
I never did.
What?
Yeah, they're gone. They're going to come back, and they're going to come back.
Of course they are.
They're going to come
with a vengeance.
back with a vengeance.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was like almost like it feels like they're a scouting party.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
That's kind of ominous.
Yeah, I'm scared, guys. I'm very scared.
That's really cool. What a game.
What a game.
What a game. This game, it's just so cool because I've never played a game where the enemies you fight are like such non-characters, but they have character. Like the faction that they're in have such character. And I don't know if that's necessarily true if I've never played a game like that, but this is like one of the most...
It highlights it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a big highlight.
The Terminids play different than what are the androids called?
Automatons.
The Terminids play different than the automatons, and the Illuminate play different than both of them.
Yeah.
You have to carry different gear into battle to fight them. You have to your strategies and how you engage with them change dramatically.
It's just super fun, and it's very engaging to like kind of think up different ways to fight each faction, and coordinate with your teammates. And this is like probably the most enjoyable and in-depth co-op experience that I've played.
Yeah. I also love that, like, you know, as you get better, as you start understanding enemy AI and stuff, you know, you'll up that difficulty to get more challenge. Mm-hmm. And it's not just it's not that the enemies are stronger or that you're weaker, right? That's not what's on the higher difficulties. What's on the higher difficulties is there's a lot fucking more of them and new enemy variants that you won't see on lower difficulties. When you start getting to that level 4, level 5, level 6, you see big motherfuckers that if you are not equipped for, you will lose. There is no other way around it.
And it's like rushingly. It's like you're not even close.
Yeah.
Like it lets you know.
Yeah, but the little guys are still the little guys. Yeah. They take the exact same amount of bullets.
Exact same amount of hits. They're
that
not more
restraint.
spongy. They're not more anything.
Yeah.
You'll still be able to kill the same amount, but they're just going to be
so many more.
You.
Yeah.
So many more.
Swarming you.
Yeah.
And like there's something about the scale of that where like when this game had like its highest moment in that like mid-February, early March, like when everybody and their mother was playing it, when like randos on TikTok were like, oh, my boyfriend or my husband is talking about saving Super Earth or like for democracy.
Spreading that democracy, baby.
They like it just had such a moment, and like you see the scale of some of these TikToks where someone would be on like a high rock and there's like just an ocean of Terminids just around them. And I remember when we were first get like the memes that were born, like, oh, I fought on Malevelon Creek, and it's like the 1,000-yard stare of like the World War II veteran or whatever.
Yes.
Like, they do that,
Malevelon
and then
Creek.
Even more recently with the Illuminate, it's like, oh, the numbers like comparing Malevelon Creek with the automatons to the Illuminate, and this
and how
other
we're
planet,
getting killed so
and
much
how
faster.
It's way more.
Yeah,
and
they're dangerous, man.
It's just
so
such,
dangerous.
I love how much personality that game has, and it was just such a great moment of the year. Like I feel like that's something that I won't forget for years.
Connor, I want to jump to you on Helldivers real quick, but I just want to add on to the point. Much like how Connor was talking about how Astrobot and the impact that we hope Astrobot has on the industry as a whole, and sort of breaking of the pattern of the sort of cycle of greed that we've been a victim to the last couple of years. I hope Helldivers does the same. Helldivers is a great example of how this type of game should be executed upon,
and how to like interact with your community,
to interact with your community, how to craft systems that yes you can pay for, or there is a way to get it in game the right way. The balance is right, the pace is right, the feel is right. For the most part, they've started diving into it recently, but for the most part, it's not pay to win. And yeah, I'm enamored with Helldivers 2. I think it's one of the greatest games of the year, but I think it's also just it's a game that I don't think I'll ever really delete from my console because because of its success. I think it'll allow me to just always be able to jump in whenever that new update is.
Yeah,
it's like Marvel Rivals in the sense that it has life. It has a lot of life left in it. The difference being in Helldivers 2, you feel like a trooper slogging through the dirt, trying to get your missions complete. You know, it's able both in terms of its the tone and feel of the game. able to translate to, it's this, high-minded, comically funny setting where it's basically like uber democracy, uber humanity.
Right.
But at the same time, be tongue-in-cheek not just how, obviously it's tongue-in-cheek because, they're being sent to their deaths in large numbers, but you feel it in the gameplay. You feel like this stupid, dumb, expendable soldier.
You
that
are
doesn't think-
expendable.
Yes, exactly. But also, all at the same time, making you feel like this super badass, fighting against waves of enemies that, the rest of your teammate gets killed, and you're the guy who's carrying your team on your back.
Or like for every one of us that we lose, like 100 of them go down. You know?
Yes.
Well, I mean, even in that, Connor, we're the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you don't feel like you're doing a bad thing, but you're
Never.
the bad guy.
No, you do not. You feel, feel like in Helldivers.
Righteous.
You feel right. You do feel righteous. Yes.
Fun game. Great game. Love
A
it
lot
so much.
of moments. It's a moment-based game. Like you could think, I remember that moment, that thing that happened, and a game that's able to constantly give you that, and it's going to obviously do it even more so the more they add on to the game.
Yes.
High praise for this.
Yes.
And don't we love the fact that this was the game? People played the original one. We knew it was super good.
Yeah.
And then to get to the heights it got
Well,
to.
we didn't even
unexpected.
play that much of the original one. We'd put less, I think I maybe broke double-digit hours, but
did.
overall, we did not play, a bunch of the first Helldivers game. And to see the jump that they made in production, in presentation, into this one is incredible. And the fact that it took off is so good, because Helldivers was a very underrated title from last generation.
And I guess the last thing I'll say about it is playing the first game, Phil. It's amazing how much of a translation this is into a third-person game. I mean, it's as the first game's envisioned in third person directly. That's a pretty amazing thing to do.
We were worried it was maybe it won't be we were questioning if friendly fire was going to be a thing.
Right.
And it's so intrinsic to that experience, right? We were like, I don't know, are the turrets going to shoot you? Is it going to be as difficult? Is it going to be hyper easy because you have more control over camera and circumstances and stuff?
Have a good night, Olvi.
All of that.
Oh, good
Thank you,
night.
Olvi.
Thanks for stopping by.
But yeah, Helldivers 2, what a fucking great game. Moving on, my number 6, Balatro.
Oh, I thought it'd be higher.
No.
Also on my list.
Yeah, well, the top 5 is just so good. Balatro is great. It continues to be great. Especially, it actually came up a couple of votes, a couple of spots when I got it on mobile.
Yep. Same thing happened to me.
And I was playing
That's
a
funny.
lot more and experimenting a lot more with the different deck builds and stuff. Balatro's great. For it to be made by a single dev is so impressive. For it to get enough acclaim to be on a Game Awards nominated stage
And win so many awards.
and win lots of awards is so incredible. Balatro is probably the best designed game of the year, just in terms of hardcore.
Not Astrobot?
No. Shut up. It's a hard thing to judge, but just in terms of systems and how you think about those systems, and it gets down to yes, I'm playing hands, but the way my jokers are lined up matter, and then the way that because of how the jokers are lined up, I need to actually rearrange my hand so that different points get applied in different ways to maximize my potential score and all.
Or
that stuff.
even rearrange the order of your jokers.
Oh yeah, that's what I mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I briefly mentioned that. But yeah, it's really a very, very clever game, and I like it a lot. It does get a touch repetitive, and maybe it's just my play style, but I feel like there's just a ceiling that I've just yet to crack in terms of skill.
Same.
And because there's things I see online, and I go, "What the?"
It's how the fuck are you doing this?
Well, how do you have 15 jokers? All of them are polychrome and negative, and
Or you'll get to the multiplier. When you get on a calculator and you get too far into the amount of zeros.
I have gotten to the exponents.
I haven't gotten that.
You've never done the exponents?
No.
I've done the exponents. I did it on PlayStation. I haven't done it on mobile yet.
Ever.
But I've done it a couple times on PlayStation. Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane how you can get up there. And then, yeah, it really is an incredible game. I do feel it's based around poker, so I guess this makes sense. But a lot of it is just dependent upon the cards. There's a lot of times where I feel I just didn't get that far in this run because I just didn't get the cards.
Now-
And there's just nothing I could have done to change that.
When that happens, do
Yeah.
you think, well, next time it's going to be better?
Absolutely.
You guys, be aware, you might be gambling addicts. Just beware. Just
Not at
beware.
all. Not
Get
at
the
all.
mentality right there.
Bill?
Wait,
Balatro.
I kind of added on what I wanted. So originally this game was probably 3 or 4 spots lower than where it is. I'm not going to say where it is yet.
Yeah.
But as soon as it got released on mobile, it skyrocketed up to where it is now. This game is the perfect game to break out if, like, at the end of the night at work, where I'm waiting just in the office for people to bring me their cash outs. I work at a movie theater restaurant kind of deal. So servers, I'm waiting on for them to clean their theaters, for them to bring me their closing day paperwork, and I'm just cracking away with whatever hand I got.
Might be the biggest time sink game I've played this year. Not the game I've played the most this year, but just the one that I play and I look up and I go,
oh my God,
it's been 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Out of nowhere. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just so fun.
It really is.
I have to like pull myself away from it.
You got to put it down.
Yeah.
Well, I found myself, I'll lose a run or whatever, and so I'll start the next run, but I don't get very far in it.
Right.
But because I've started it, when I pick it up again, I go, oh yeah, this run, and then I'll play that run for an hour.
Right.
You know.
Exactly what I do. I have to like, okay, I lost. Let me start. Wait, no, let me not start. Let me put it down, and then
putting it down is always a problem. Connor, number 5.
And number 5. We are in the hour mark, gentlemen.
We knew this one was going to be long.
True.
It should be long. We're talking about games in depth.
Celebrating
30 games.
My number 5 pick.
No, but
I know, but 30 entries.
Yep.
I think we were somewhere in the high teens.
No, I mean
total.
Like theoretically, there's 30.
Oh yeah. I got you.
Because each of us have 10.
30 opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
But my number 5 spot is Tekken 8.
Hey,
nice.
Tekken 8. It was my biggest foray into a Tekken game. I got into 7 around the time 8 was announced, and I was like, well, I'm going to play that anyway, so I'll jump into it then. And I did, though not as much as I would like. Despite that fact, I found a character that I enjoyed, and he looks amazing. All the other characters look amazing. It's one of the only times in a fighting game the more hyper-realistic character designs actually worked, not only because that's Tekken style, but also because they were also at the same time able to have cool costumes. The costume designing aspect of that game gives it that little bit of extra flair that sometimes these games that don't have all the skins out the gate or lots of skins out the gate can kind of be, floated by with that system. But
You gonna play Clive?
I was actually going to mention, you want to jump on? You can play Clive. It's a super fun.
I'd be down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a super fun, satisfying game. Every single attack feels
You could have just
weighty.
invited him to play Tekken, and he would have gone. He didn't have to wait till Clive.
Well, I didn't know. Yeah, fair enough. I guess I could have. But, large cast of characters. You'll be able to find somebody you like, similar to Marvel Rivals. Every single punch feels super weighty. And that's really cool because each character has 100 moves, give or take, around that area. And you're able to find the path to how you want to play your character. Generally, there's going to be a streamlined way to do it, but you can still carve your own path. And if you find a certain kind of playstyle works for you, certain moves are just the key ones you want to use, go for it. And it's such a fun fucking game. One that's a fun multiplayer game that you can sit people who don't really have experience with fighting games into a room, exactly, and get them to wrap their mind around it pretty easily. Your buttons are mapped to the the limb that you're moving.
Okay.
Obviously the two, your 2 arms, your 2 legs, and it's easy to pick up as opposed to something like Street Fighter 6, which is actually, I think, a harder game to get into.
I disagree.
The flow of, because once you get the flow of Tekken, it's weird because it's not like other fighting games, but then you're just going like ba 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 ba. Your fingers are flowing, and that's always a nice feeling to get. And Tekken's always done that very well, while also having a very nice way that attacks connect. Because it's not like other games where they use hit boxes and hurt boxes. It's more elegant, I guess you could say. It's a lot more it's a lot more accurate. When your attacks connect with your opponent, determining whether you get the first, whether you get your hit in first, or whether they get their hit in first, or whether they block it or not. It's very tight. It's a tight feeling game.
I think probably being in a 3D space probably helps the most.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
Fight like a tiger.
Bill, number 5?
My number 5 is Balatro.
Balatro!
We talked about it. We can move on. Great game.
To you, Tavin, we can move on.
Well, yes, indeed. And my number 5 is, where was it? My number 5 was actually Persona 3 Reload. So we can jump right on, Connor, to your number 4.
Game, you ranked it higher than I thought you would. It's deserving of it, but
I really like Persona.
yeah,
I really like Persona.
easy to not.
I'm gonna bang that redhead, man. Probably.
Not a bad idea.
Point,
Not a bad
maybe.
idea. Me, Elizabeth.
Which one was that?
The door
I haven't gotten
attendant.
her yet. I haven't gotten her yet.
No, she's the door attendant. She's the attendant.
Oh, the child? Oh no, she's not a child.
Yeah, it's like, no,
Never
that's
mind, never mind.
5,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't call me out like that. I those are the worst attendants.
Isn't she young?
Like an adult.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But my number 4 pick is Helldivers 2, which we just discussed at length.
Hey.
Yeah. So moving right back to Phil with your number 4.
My number 4 is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Good
we
position.
We're just gonna move right on along because my number 4, Connor, is also Helldivers 2.
Nice.
So we can clean up those. I can clean up those time codes later, buddy. So
That was fun. I think you got it.
let's move on to honorable mentions.
Okay.
I don't really have any specific way that we can do that. Connor, do you want to start with yours?
Yeah, sure. How do we
Just
want
give us
to
all
alternate?
3. Yeah,
All
give
three
us
are
all.
all-
give them all.
Yeah.
My 3 honorable mentions are Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Surprise didn't make your list.
Yeah, I am. The problem with that game, you could understand this, I think, a lot more. This is going to sound bad or worse to you. It's not the same. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, the video game.
Oh wow.
Where the gameplay isn't necessarily the greatest. It's better.
Okay.
But it's the style of the game. In this case, it's an Indiana Jones game, and it makes you feel like you're not only Indiana Jones, but you're going through the plot points of an Indiana Jones game.
Okay.
The ending, for example, the big grandeur moment was grand. I was like sitting there like, oh, this is what it's all led up to.
Yeah.
Because the moment-to-moment traversal of the dungeons can be really super fun, or they can be kind of lackluster and bland.
Yeah.
There's a particular moment with a giant snake that was incredibly
Why do it have to be
nerve-wracking.
snakes?
Oh, it had to be snakes because it's Indiana Jones. Though the moment-to-moment gameplay wasn't necessarily the greatest it could have been. The lead up to what you're going to was always enticing. I was always wondering what's coming next. How is this mystery going to unravel?
I actually just recently thought about the Guardians of the Galaxy game the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
It was being talked about on Twitter. People were like, "Hey, this game has sauce," which it does.
It
This
does
game
have
also has
some-
sauce. It
The
does.
narrative is fucking great.
Yeah, great narrative, great style.
It won Best Narrative at the Game Awards, you curmudgeon.
Oh, doesn't mean it was great.
It was great.
But yeah,
It Takes Two won Game of the Year. Wasn't a
It wasn't
Game of
as
the
good as
Year
that, no.
worthy candidates. You know.
And last thing I'll say about Indiana Jones before I move on to my next 2, I'll talk on those less. The gunplay is super fun for how it could be used, how it could be utilized. Short bursts of gameplay segment, hectic ones. I'm thinking kind of like Uncharted's train segments where you're constantly, running into enemies, but you're more dealing with the environment just as much as you are the enemies. It never at any point in time, and I thought it would near the end, played to that benefit. The gameplay was never utilized well enough. With the exception being that I was so strong by the end of the game that the somewhat lackluster stealth gameplay was traded in for me going more combat focused, which benefited the game because that was the one part of the game near the end where it really utilized it to the best of its advantage.
I don't want Indiana Jones to be like... My fear with Indiana Jones, the game, in gamifying that, and I feel like it'll run into the same problem that I have with the Uncharted games, and that's like where our Uncharted games write Nathan Drake as he's this normal dude, or like this normal everyday guy who like he cracks jokes and everything, but he's just mowing down hordes upon hordes of military trained
I don't think
dudes.
you'll have that problem with this game.
You
will
don't think so?
No.
It's not an Uncharted game.
It's not. No.
But like, I don't want Indiana Jones to be that where I am. I mean, sure, I would say Indiana Jones overall, like the character is more of a badass than Nathan Drake. But like, I kind of want that like sneaky around avoiding conflicts part of it and only having
That's
to
fair.
take out who you want.
Oh, that's there for the majority of the game.
But I'm saying where he's saying at the end he becomes so strong that you're just...
I'm also gonna guess, Connor. You'd have to correct me. I don't think you probably don't fight more than like 5 dudes at a time.
Well, you can fight a lot if you choose to, but very often you do not. No, because most of the game,
I'm
if you're
still
going
probably
up,
not going to play it.
but that's the thing. When you go up against a lot of enemies, even if with the gunplay, you die most of the time. It's just the game doesn't facilitate the gunplay in certain moments of the game.
What else do you have on?
Yeah, I know. I'll go through these quicker. Stalker 2, I wish I played more of it. It had some bugs out the gate. Those, as I just played recently, were fixed for the most part. They've made it into Warzone, so I can give them leeway in this one case here. But super fun, adventure mechanics. It's cool to deal with anomalies. It's way better than what would usually be in some games to be, generic traversal, climbing up ledges and whatnot, to watching out for weird, random, vague shit that can just send you in a whirlwind and kill you, or, make you teleport and die. And I guess maybe your body gets compressed. It's weird. Stalker's a weird setting, and the setting is sick as fuck. It's a cool one with a lot of mysteries abound that I didn't get to explore that much, so it's only an honorable mention. The last one is Dragon's Dogma 2. Super fun combat. It's just the world feels kind of empty. It feels like you aren't a character, and that was kind of my issue with the first game. It wasn't really resolved here, despite the fact the combat system became even more fun to play. And it's got some fun RPG mechanics, but just didn't make it.
I like it.
Bill, honorable mentions.
My honorable mentions. First off, we got Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door remake.
Nice.
Very, very fun. Harkens back to that GameCube classic with, updated visuals. And I think they added some fun badges that kind of change up some of the combat. Very fun. Still probably the best, probably still my favorite Mario RPG type game. It's just got that kind of character to me. Pokemon TCG Pocket.
Yeah, there we go.
Little honorable mention there. Another mobile game that kind of took over my my phone time. I'm opening packs every single day. I'm on that grind.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Me. Then my final honorable mention. Game that I finally played after all this time. I played in anticipation for the new release, and I was going to play it, but then other things happened. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Cannot believe you did not jump straight into Rebirth.
Good.
Sure.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, it's just sitting there.
I see what
greatness is just sitting there waiting for him. So
eventually,
remake. Anything to say? Because you didn't say anything.
Oh, I mean, no, it was really good. I honestly, I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna be out there. And I'm gonna say I like it better than the original.
That's wild. That's crazy.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the original's one of the best RPGs ever made.
You're right.
And it doesn't. I mean, visually it's ugly as shit, but it doesn't take much to meet it where it wants to be.
Overall, I just think it's more engaging because I'm not against turn-based combat by any means, but I love the more active time that they're going for, and also and when I do get turn-based, my favorite turn-based games are ones that you can interact during the opponent's turn, or during your own turn and improve your own moves, like Sea of Stars, Mario and Luigi.
I don't have this problem of turn-based versus active combat. It's not a thing for me.
Neither do I, but in the case of the game he's talking about, it's one of the best combat systems I played in a video game.
Oh, so for sure.
When that's taken into consideration, it's it goes beyond just comparing two combat systems. It's comparing the quality of.
I'm just overall just way more engaged.
I just think overall, in pretty much every way, the original game is better than remake. Whether it's gameplay, combat, music.
Every way, visually.
Actually, I take that back. Musically, I mean visually, sure, yes, but when you're 30 years apart, that's not fair. Yeah. My honorable mentions. I've got. I've got Concord. I think Concord was a lot of fun. I think it should have been given a better chance than it was given. I think the general gaming populace pulled the rug out from under that game.
They wanted it to die.
They wanted it to die, and I don't think they were right in wanting it to die.
Very over bloated development wise, and
for sure,
sure, all of those problems are there. And true.
Not a great, not an amazing game, but it was good.
I can't remember the number. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah. There were numbers as high as 400 million. I don't believe those numbers.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens to PlayStation after that. I think also PlayStation dropped the ball in every facet of that game, whether it's marketing, whether it's what they had Firewalk make that game be. I think the focus on narrative was a mistake, and then they didn't give it a chance. My next one, Banjo-Kazooie. I really loved Banjo. I think Banjo's a great game. I wish it was talked about more in the gaming sphere. I think it's easily one of the best platformers, 3D platformers out there. I think it's probably the best collectathon I've ever played. And yeah, I very much enjoyed Banjo because we go watch our review for Banjo on the Game Club. And then final, I have Pal World. I don't really have a lot to say about Pal World. It was a fun weekend. So I enjoyed that.
Good time.
I do want to bring back one thing that I haven't done since the first year that we did this. And that is a dishonorable mention. That's going to go to Ubisoft. Across the board, y'all fucked up. There is no example of Ubisoft in 2024 where you got something right. Everything you did was wrong, and you should absolutely do better. Fumbling the bag on Prince of Persia, I'll never fucking forgive you for that. Star Wars Outlaws being the easiest layup in the fucking world, and you fumbling the shit out of that is ridiculous. From a marketing perspective, y'all were insane. From a business perspective, y'all fucked up on every avenue. Ubisoft has turned into the worst publisher in the world for me, and it's not even close.
Hard to come back from that.
Tough. Hey, who's excited for Assassin's Creed Shadows?
Hopeful, but
I just don't know. I don't know. Like in my head, I want to bid on it and put it in my fantasy, and I want to play it and love it and enjoy it. But I'm so burnt by Ubisoft after this year. I don't even think and the layoffs that they did this year, fucking shit. I don't even think I can. I'm considering just not playing it at all.
I'm probably gonna play it.
I'm really, really upset with the state of Ubisoft.
I'll lead that review.
They might come back and draw you in with that stealth gameplay. Knew you like stealth.
Why? There's other games I can play in that time.
I'll lead that review.
Connor.
I'll follow.
Moving on to our number 3 or our top 3.
Top 3.
Take it away, my friend. What's your number 3?
My number 3 spot is reserved for Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, a jack of all trades kind of game. It has a very fun.
Astrobot was at number 10. Prince of Persia was at number 7. What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, like those are vast quality differences of games. Like, you know what you're talking about, you.
I'm with you. I really enjoyed Warhammer 40K.
Mm-hmm.
Did not make my list.
I can tell. When you did the reaction, I was like, did he do this as number 3 as well? That's way higher than I thought you would have. So, and you didn't do an honorable mention, so I was like, what's he going to do here?
I thought about it. It's just I wanted to give the shout out to Paper Mario, Final Fantasy, which is a huge. Final Fantasy VII itself is a huge franchise,
right.
And Pokemon.
Yeah, but
took more of my time.
Space Marine 2, it has, like as I was saying, it's a jack of all trades game. It's got a fun campaign that it's good for fans of the original one, but it's also just a nice grand experience. A grand experience in the sense of scale. It doesn't take long, so it's not a big investment. You can get in, get out, which with as many games as there were that were fun to play this year, that's a plus. It's got an extremely fun multiplayer. Once again, get in, get out. It's reminiscent of the old times where games would have a large variety of different ways to play it, rather than just playing a single-player game and being done with it, or playing a multiplayer game and playing it until you're bored of it. Obviously, you also have the Spec Ops, which I spent a good amount of time last night playing.
The multiplayer, right?
Spec Ops is the 3-person PvE game. PvE, yeah, because they have the PvP mode and the PvE mode.
I was thinking of PvP. Sorry.
Yeah, well, PvP. The factions. No, it's not called factions. It's not called factions. It's called Eternal War. Eternal War. It doesn't have a crazy amount of depth to where you're constantly getting the next loot box or the next unlock, but it's one where you can just jump in and have a ton of fun with it as well. Spec Ops the exact same kind of way, with a really big scale of not only difficulty to play around with and challenge yourself with, but a large contingency of classes that have guns that are super fun to shoot with, melee weapons that are fun to jump into the fray with. A lot of this is elevated, of course, by the fact that I love the 40K setting, and this translates it in such a strong feeling way. In the same way Helldivers 2 feels like you're a grunt slogging through the mud, fighting against overwhelming odds, you feel like a super soldier, fighting against the worst opponents that man could ever fight in its existence, and sometimes really struggling with it.
I'm going to be honest, Evan. I'm not mad that this is number 3. I'm mad that Astrobot's number 10 and that Persia is number 7. When at the very least, both of those deserve sub 5.
Yeah, well, they would deserve it. One arguably should have been there, but my time didn't allow for that. Astrobot, I think, well, we'll get into that later.
Whether you talk quality of game or how fun it is to play or whatever slider you wanna lean on, I think there are 3 definitive games that if you played those games, there's nothing touching those 3 games. The rest of the list is fine, but those 3 games I think are definitive. Those are the best games of the year, no matter what slider you care about the most.
That's not necessarily true, but we'll get into that later.
All right.
Bill.
My number 3. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Mm-hmm.
What a time I had with this fucking game. It's literally like one of the first games that I played this year with, I think, aside from... Did I play that one first, or did I play Power World? Or did I take a break from Infinite Wealth?
Power World was January.
So was Infinite Wealth.
Yeah. No. Infinite Wealth was February. Wasn't it like February 8th?
Infinite Wealth was January.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I don't know.
It was like early January. So I want to say maybe I stopped playing Infinite Wealth to Power World, then I went back to it. But either way, this is probably my favorite Yakuza game, like just to play in general. Like Yakuza 0, it's a fucking incredible game, but like just quality of life wise, Infinite Wealth, not only is it like, it's not the same like action beat 'em up kind of deal as 0, it's more the turn-based type deal. But it's just so, it's got so much personality and so much just like...
Power World came out first.
Came out first?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I must have just hopped
they're
on
like,
then.
They're a week apart.
Gotcha. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of in my head about it. But yeah, my first review of the year as well. But also, I think my first platinum of the year as well.
You platinumed it really quick.
I did.
Yeah.
I platinumed it. It wasn't that quick.
Quick in the sense of what the game is.
I want to say it was late February that I platinumed it, or early March. But either way, this is the story of Ichiban and Kiryu in this. Is just the ups and downs in terms of like the funny moments, the sad moments, the intense awesome moments. I was along for the ride the entire time playing this game. There was not a single time through this game where I was like, man, I could be doing something else right now. Like I was just hooked. Like, sure, you can give the benefits like, oh, it was January, there wasn't that much else out.
Yeah.
Like I was playing other games from years ago, or like I could have gone back to play one of my old favorites. I could have gone back to like a Kingdom Hearts, but like this game just held my attention so well. It had stranglehold on my gaming free time.
Since me and Tavin's experience with Yakuza begins and ends at 0, comparatively, like
I played Infinite Wealth.
You played it? Oh, you did.
Yeah, I put about 10 hours into it.
You put what did you put, like 4 hours into the Like a Dragon Yakuza 7, right?
No, I put probably a dozen into the first Like a Dragon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these games are good. I think they continue to be good. I think this is a quality game, and if you like Yakuza games, or if you like turn-based RPGs, or if you're just looking for a flashier turn-based RPG, this is one to go for.
Fully enthralled in every single one of the characters that you could have in your party. There wasn't a bad party member.
I don't know how much I love Ichiban, and maybe I should have finished Yakuza 7, the first Like a Dragon game, because I'd probably like him more. But yeah, he has some character flaws in the beginning of the game that kind of turns me off. He's a little too nice guy-y. You know what I mean? You know how like the nice guy ick type of thing.
Okay.
He's got a little bit too much of that going on for me, at least early on in this game. I don't remember him having that in the first game.
He does.
So yeah, I don't know. I think he's okay. Yeah, I liked Kiryu better.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
Kiryu's one of the most iconic,
Yeah.
like protagonists in games, I think.
He's coming.
Yeah, Infinite Wealth is a good game. It definitely picks up when you get to Hawaii.
Yeah.
It for sure picks up. It kind of takes a little too long to get there, in my opinion, also. But yeah, from what I'm playing, it's super good game. Moving on to my number 3. My number 3 is Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what you guys said earlier. This game has phenomenal combat, great exploration. Phil, you've hinted at it. I think this is the greatest Metroidvania I've ever played. That pool is pretty small, but it's pretty hard to beat Prince of Persia from the experience I've had from other Metroidvanias. there's just not really a wasted moment in this game.
I was just gonna say, it beats Metroid Dread for me. I don't know if it beats Metroid Fusions. I'd have to like go back and revisit it, but Fusions is fucking great.
Yeah, I for sure liked this more than Dread. The what are they called? Emus or fucking not emus?
Emmys.
The Emmys kind of ruined that game.
Oh,
I
love the Emmys.
But yeah, Prince
So
of
satisfying
Persia.
every time you killed one.
Yeah, Prince of Persia, great map, great level design, great exploration. Every ability you get feels sizable. The puzzles get crazy. The platforming challenges get insane. It's fun. It's challenging. It's got great boss fights, great enemy design fights, and great enemy varieties. Sort of sorry for the slight spoiler, Connor, but eventually, you get to it, or maybe you did get to this point, and I don't remember you talking about it. You get to a certain part of the game where like enemy animations play in reverse because we're doing that Prince of Persia time type stuff.
Timey-wimey.
Yeah, and so like enemy attack, like a spear will form behind you and hit you from behind as they like call it back to their hand. Like that shit is so.
I did not get to that point.
Yeah, it's so fucking cool.
Like a specific enemy type.
See, it's even so. That's one of the cool parts of the game is you just have variety in exploration, variety in enemy design, and variety in combat.
Yeah,
it constantly keeps the game fresh.
I think the quality of life of this game is insane. I love that like you can have a build for your character, and like some characters can knock enemies higher or get more damage off of certain attacks or this, that, and the third. And all of that's really, really great. And again, Phil mentioned it again, the attitude of this game. This game will give you the stank face like no other game ever will. Like this game, it's just like, fuck yes, whether it's presentation, stylization, level design, level aesthetic. When you get to the east part of the map and it's that whole like pirate shipwreck that's frozen in time. Oh my fucking God, are you kidding me?
So good.
Yeah, that game is, I think, possibly based off of what I would hypothesize the scale and budget is. Wow, way to really make every moment count. Yeah, the only reason this game is not my game of the year is because of that story, which the game does focus
story
on
and characters.
The game does have a focus on story, and that does let the game down. If not for that, if it had a more bare bones story, or if it had a more hands off approach to story, it probably would be my game of the year. But because they do put a focus on it, it knocks it down a couple of points. And it's not that it's bad, it's just generic and boring.
Some very like forgettable characters.
100%. Yeah, 1000%. But everything else about that game is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me.
Honestly, I think the most memorable like enemy, quote unquote, in that game is like the big anchor guy.
Oh yeah, that one doesn't even do it for me. I think a lot of like the basic like sword and spear guys that you see early on. I love the crab. I love the. I always think of the boss fights. The big lion mythical creature thing. Chimera at the front. Some of the fights at the end are so fucking incredible.
The final boss fight's fucking beautiful.
Dude, that, but also the penultimate fight.
Oh yeah,
with the skeleton dude. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, are you kidding me?
It's like supposed to be like his dad, right?
Well, I was trying to dance around that, but yeah.
Well, like, I mean, but
I know that.
Oh, you know that?
No, I was there when you fought that guy.
Oh, okay, yeah. For like, I've never played a Metroidvania where as soon as I beat it, I wanted to run it again. And yeah, so I've had to fight the itch of going back to play this game.
I'll run it again, platinum it again.
I'm gonna play. Is it on PS4?
Yeah.
Gonna go platinum.
And all of that to be dead in the water.
This is the best Prince of Persia game.
Easy. No doubt.
It's not
in my
even
mind.
close.
Yeah.
I haven't played any other ones.
It's not even close.
If you pick one to play, you know.
Connor, number 2.
Biggest tragedy of the year. Number 2 is Metaphor Refantasio.
Banger.
It is the culmination of Atlas. It's the best story, the best writing they've had. It's the best combat system. Obviously, they've always been restricted by the personas. Restricted's a harsh word. It's a pillar of the game.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they made another game that's not Persona, which is the bigger thing to focus on. The archetype system and allowing other team members to take advantage of the skills that are offered by other archetypes, which even though they look the exact same as Personas, being able to switch them out and change them out leads to not only a more in-depth RPG system, but it makes it to where you don't feel like you're constantly on the grind to level up all of these other archetypes, because there's methods in the game that you could level them up without having to play them at all, just through getting items. And so you're entirely just getting the skills to form your perfect ideal character rather than having to just do a bunch of bullshit. Which to that end, it has the day, morning, evening, well, the really afternoon and evening cycle where you're able to do things in the world. It seems like it gave you a lot more control, not being held back by any kind of school mechanic to where you're constantly like, well, I want to find out about, I want to raise my tolerance by listening to this person talk about their culture, while at the same exact time getting more in-depth stuff about the story and things that you would have to get through these explorations, these explorative features, rather than just the game just giving it to you through the main story. Having cool side missions, rather than it just being built around, like I said in Persona 3, a procedurally generated or procedurally generated area. Persona 5, that being the case for Mementos, to have all your side quests in, rather having them be separate dungeons. That even though they can be kind of samey at times, the fact that they at least go somewhere different, rather than just being in the same kind of place, makes it to where you're always interested when you go to a new region about what kind of side quests and areas are the game going to provide for you. The narrative is great. I had mentioned before that Atlas had improved upon the narrative from past Persona games, more the writing, because the narrative's always been pretty strong in Persona games. But so many interesting characters. Very often with Persona games, with all of your friends that you can get to level up your support, your rank systems, you always find some that you're like, I don't really care about that character all that much. That guy, whatever, I'll focus on him less. Every single character felt like they had importance, with their own stories, with, if they're the main party members, how their characters are defined and play into the main story with their own little side quests. And I haven't even gotten all of the characters yet. I've played, I want to say 50 hours of this game, and I'm still got some left. But I still see the end coming and the culmination of leveling up all of my different social skills, in this case being virtues, that also don't feel like it's as sloggy to upgrade those as well as some other past Persona games are. It feels like, because sometimes you feel like, I'm going to have to go and do this activity to go and level up my tolerance or my courage.
How many times do I got to spend a night studying?
Exactly. In this one, it's more often leveled up through interacting with your teammates and doing activities with them, and that, by extension, increases your virtues. It melds into the game a lot more than other Persona games have had, and I want to beat the game and then sit on it to rank it in the Atlas catalog, because it is definitely near the top of their games.
When did you know you were like hooked on the game?
When I was unlocking more of the archetypes, because a lot of you have your base archetypes, and then as you go through their lineages, you unlock upgraded versions of them that have their own skill set. For example, Stroll. He starts out with, he's the melee character.
Warrior.
Exactly, the warrior character. And it starts out, do big giant slash on this person or whatever.
Accuracy's so ass.
It is. But it kind of makes it a little bit better when you have other classes come into play that are more based around not just attacking single targets, but multiple targets. And while as cool as that is, and as useful as it is, the fact that the turn system is, is so fun to play around with.
Yeah, it's very what's the word? What's the word? Like, it'll change constantly. Like
fluid.
Yeah.
It's
so
extremely
if
fluid.
you do like a weak move that an enemy's weak to, you'll get like a tiny little bonus turn.
Yeah. It won't take up a full set of like a full turning point.
Right.
Turn point symbol, whatever you fucking call them. I can't remember.
Because the reason I ask how long it took you to really get hooked is because while I have played what I feel is a substantial is like too big of a word, a pretty decent amount of the game from like me trying to get bought in, I'm not all the way bought in yet. I'm only, I think the last thing I'm just starting like the journey, like on like the vehicle.
Okay, yeah.
And and I did like the first fight against like the priest guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's kind of where I stopped.
Did you do the dialogue bit after the priest fight?
Is this in the demo, or is this in the full game that you're talking about, Phil?
I don't know if it's in the.
Oh, you didn't play the demo.
I just bought the game.
I've had the demo downloaded. since before lunch, and I've yet to make it past the first like 10 minutes.
I feel like it'll be easier for me to like play more of it now that I have the portal. Because I don't have to like take up TV spot, and I don't have to be like at the desk. I can just kind of be in bed or something like. If I
all these games feel better
with
a mobile device anyway, or a handheld device.
They work
these like turn-based type games.
Yeah, they all feel better that way.
But around the point you were saying, literally that the next story beat with the conversation with the main villain that takes place after that fight, that's when I was sent on, okay, this narrative's got me. I want to see where it goes.
Okay.
And it only gets to greater heights. And I was just getting to a point where it was going to, I think, get to that next step of what the game was going to be throwing at you.
Gotcha. I'll have to, like, when I get back to it, I'll let you know, like, where I'm at mentally.
I think most Atlas games kind of work that. Is this like after like first dungeon type shit?
Yes.
Or, most Atlas games take at least the first dungeon to get into. For me, P4 is the only one that kind of gets you within the first 5 hours.
First dungeon's like Necromancer dude.
Yes.
I was stuck on that boss fight for a while, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I think the game's kind of easy. That's not true. That's not true. It's gotten more difficult.
I must just fucking suck.
No, it gets more difficult. But also, one other cool thing is that weather also changes things, so it makes enemies where you can't take advantage of that turn bonus. But the enemies are stronger as well, and you, of course, get more XP, but it creates a whole other level of difficulty that builds upon itself.
I think maybe I'll get more out of it if I turn the difficulty down. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. What do you want?
For most of this,
the standard.
If you just do a little bit of grinding, you'll be fine.
I would stick there because I grinded early on. Like I think during that first
the dungeon is where I grinded the most. Yeah.
Don't. I assume dungeons kind of operate similar-ish to Persona in some way.
They do.
Don't skip fights. Don't run past enemies. Fight everything.
Yes.
There was a couple like big ones that I avoided. I was like, oh, I'm just going to use way too much MP.
And that's the ones you need to do because those are when they give you the biggest XP boost to prepare you for the end boss.
There's always is there like a breakaway thing mechanic like in Persona where you're like, okay, I'm leaving the dungeon to go do other stuff and then come back later.
Yes.
Well, there's always
leave the dungeon. That's the end of the night.
Yeah. Always play as much as you can.
Okay.
I just think drain your MP every time.
Okay.
But like, there's always enough items. There's always enough time to do what you need to do.
I just think I was getting in my own head about it because like it was on that like timer where it's like, oh, you have this much, you have to defeat this boss by this day, otherwise this bad shit's gonna happen.
That's all of them.
And I think I was just getting in my own head. I was like, oh fuck, I better get it done.
There's always enough time.
You feel that sometimes, but take it easy.
You only need maximum 3 days to get through a dungeon.
Yeah,
I probably had like 3 extra days.
You're fine
before I actually beat him.
You've been fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah. I don't know how metaphor works. I can't wait to get to metaphor, or I can't wait, obviously. But like, I think I can only handle one of these at a time. They're not games that I can juggle simultaneously.
It was a lot with 3 and this in the same year. I would have beaten one of them if it wasn't for the other.
Yeah. But I love Atlas games. I think they're some of the best like versions of these games that you can get. I love that time mechanic. I keep forgetting that the day-night cycle is also in Metaphor and the calendar system, I guess you would call it or whatever, is also in Metaphor. That actually makes me more excited to play it because I'm like, oh, okay, all right, this is more Persona than I thought it was.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's like streamlined the best aspects of Persona in this game.
But then also added stuff on top of it.
Yes, to make it unique.
Cool. Can't wait to get around to it, but it will take
you
a while.
I'll definitely get back to it. I was kind of like,
I recommend.
I was like 60% on getting back to it. I'm closer to like 80 now.
Yeah. There's always time.
Okay.
You can take your time in that game.
With, as you said, your portal as well. Perfect setting.
Okay. What I typically do if I'm feeling nervous about where I am battle progression wise, is it off of a month schedule? Or is it like a couple of weeks or whatever?
Days. It's not like a traditional like October, November.
If they give you 30 days, at the 15th day, I'll fight my way through as much as I can, and then gauge where I'm at from there. If I feel like I could finish it off in 1 day, then I'll just wait till the very last day to do it. If I feel like I might need a little bit more than that, I'll wait till the last 2 days to do it.
Okay. I think another part where I was kind of getting lost is, the lack of kind of structure, because then like my ADHD kind of was like, oh, so this is a new day. What should I do?
Well, to that end, if you connect to the network, you can see what other players did. So you can kind of judge it off that if you need to. But at a certain point, when you know what a Persona game entails, it was probably easier for me and would be for Tavin to do it because we have an experience with it.
Yeah, this
But
is literally my first like Persona type
yeah,
game.
You trust me, you lock in and you're like, I know what I'm doing today. I know what I'm doing tomorrow and the next day. We'll see after that.
It's also like first time through, you're always going to want to. How can I describe it? You want to see all your options, so I always hit every location that I can go to and be like, all right, who's here to talk? You. I care about you the most, but let me go to another location and see what else is there to do. Oh, I could study. Oh, I could build up my strength. Oh, I could do this, that, or third. I might need to do that, but I want to go finish this conversation with this guy that I was having. So let me go do that, and then tomorrow I'll go work out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, type shit.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I'm probably closer to 80% getting back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the portal.
Bill, let's move on to your number 2.
My number 2 game of the year.
Oh,
Game of the year.
My number 2 game of the year.
yeah. I was like, now number 1, I guess.
But also,
It's the game.
it's the
game of the year. It's not my game of the year.
Yeah.
Astrobot.
Astrobot.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Astrobot when Connor wrongfully put it at number 10.
You're disgusting.
Literally on the bubble of not even being on your list. Are you fucking kidding me?
A coward and a moron.
Not a coward. You guys are the cowardly ones. You guys went with the flow, the establishment flow.
I'll reiterate.
Imagine
it was in my top 3 before Game Awards even came around.
Imagine, Phil, if we had Baldur's Gate 3 at number 10 last year.
Imagine
if we had God of War Ragnarok or Elden Ring at number 10 last year.
Imagine.
The difference is because it's your number 2 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get that. Yeah.
But anyway, Astrobot. Holy fucking shit, dude. Sony, Team Asobi, you fucking cooked. Team Asobi, you cooked so hard on this game. And like
Studio of the year for me.
Holy shit, like I love how much of a love letter as someone whose first console was the original PlayStation and how like a lot of my origins like playing games for the first time stemmed from that. And I love the love and care that they put into putting all of like my favorite little like versions of my favorite characters in this game, right? Like
How far into Astrobot did you get?
I beat all of the stuff that you can do in the first 2 worlds.
Okay, so you got to the God of War moment.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to tell me this game doesn't have...
See, that's kind of my issue with
for
how
you?
you guys talk about it and how people grandly talk about this game. Because you guys have the streamlined thought of, this is one of the greatest games, I'm going to jerk it off. I've also, at the same exact time, seen the exact opposite of like, this is just a simple, easy game that doesn't seem like it's that great from a lot of other people. I'm in the middle between that.
people complaining that it's easy haven't done the final gauntlet.
That's kind of like the end of the game, though.
I don't...
Or some of the platforming challenges in each of like the
my
secret
thing
symbols.
my thing is why is being easy make it like less quality?
That doesn't. It's not about less quality. It's on my list. I mean, some other games I had more fun with myself, but I put it because of the reasons you guys are pointing out.
But like in the same way that you can praise a From Software for being challenging and challenging the player, you can also praise another studio for being easy. Like that's a good thing to be easy but not boring. That's a hard line to walk.
Really
just
is,
how being
yeah.
difficult but not frustrating is a hard line to walk.
That's the thing. I didn't get taken with it as much as you guys did. I played Astrobot, and at the second world, I was like, I don't want to play this game in large settings anymore. I'm done.
Going off of you talking about walking the line between easy but still fun.
Yeah.
I kind of like Pokemon is very quick, like with the mainline series, is very quickly careening off like the cliff of like, oh, it's way too easy for some things that it just becomes more boring, and I feel less and less motivated to finish them to the point where I still haven't even completely finished all of Scarlet and Violet.
I also don't think Astrobot is that easy. I just think it's not punishing.
Yeah.
It doesn't punish you for missing a jump or dying or whatever. That doesn't mean that like the platforming challenges throughout the meat of the game don't have challenge to them. I died a bunch in Astrobot, but you're not going to remember those moments because they're not like heavy punishing moments.
There's
You
not the
don't
big
lose
walk
progress.
back. There's not the big walk back to the boss that you would have in a FromSoft game.
Yeah.
But like just getting more into Astrobot with how much it loves its own mechanics, like with all the different little animal friends. Sure, it loves some more than others. Like you only see the penguin friend in one level.
Yeah.
Which, kind of sucks.
The mouse you get twice.
I think twice, 2 or 3 times. I'm not
But
sure.
you got to have that dog backpack, bro.
The dog backpack. But it's fun, right?
The
Like
weird monkey arms.
the monkey. But wait, Oh, the monkey arms is one of my least favorites.
Smack.
Yeah,
Smack.
The frog boxing gloves, that's like probably
Those
the
are dope.
best one.
Those are dope.
It's just so fun, and I was also really into the like slowing down time mechanic and how they played with that in some of the levels, like that casino level.
Oh my god,
That casino level is
one of
so
the best
good.
levels on the game. It's so good.
Like literally, I don't know. You
that's
haven't
one
gotten
where the
there yet.
platforming is hard.
You haven't gotten there yet, but there's in one of the levels you slow down time and you're in a casino and it's spitting out these chips and you have to time it to where the chips are, and also like where cards are falling down. You have to time it to where you have enough platforms to land on to get to the end. And you have a limited time that the time is slowed down.
There's also like darts going through, so you have to like slow it down to hop on the darts.
onto a dart as
it's
it's
so
flying like super fast. It seems like it's going a lot faster, but then you slow down time and you just got to go on the thing. And then there's another part with the ghosts and the slowdown time. That's also a really good level.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
That's
No,
really
that's a
good
good
level
level too.
Jinx. Anyway, but
Go to
yeah,
the bottom of Coke.
yeah, right. But I just love Astrobot. I love all the different animal buddies we talked about. The boss fights were, not the best, but like they were still
fine.
Yeah, they were fine. The final boss, the design of the final boss character is really bad. I don't like the alien guy.
Yeah, I've always thought it's the opposite of the Silent Hill 2 problem, where what you're doing is good,
Super cool.
is cool, is good, is fun, is like engaging, but the looks of all the bosses are you're like,
Yeah,
all right, it's a monkey. All right, it's a very
squid.
generic alien. Like,
the squid guy.
yeah, I'm like, all right, go. Whatever.
But like
Octopus?
that.
Oh, this one's a snake.
Octopus, you're right.
Cool.
But like that final rush where you go through all the different consoles, the console generations,
So badass
to defeat
bro.
the final boss, it's
Oh.
so good, and it's just such a it's nostalgia porn. Okay, that's a big part of it.
That's a
for
big
me.
part of it, but yeah, but that's not. You could take all the PlayStation member berries out of the
Yeah.
game, and it would still be there.
It would still be a
function-
solidly built game.
Yeah,
But I can guarantee you, I felt nothing with the PlayStation stuff that it was showing me. I'm like,
that's insane,
it's PlayStation.
Feeling
it's a brand.
nothing.
dude.
Nothing at all.
Fucking
I felt more about the cool, quirky like style of the game.
characters
And
I'm not
cool-
even
fun it is.
connected to would pop up,
The
and I'd be like,
music is
oh,
also
shit, that guy.
the music is also
Music's
dope
great.
as fuck.
Yeah,
Oh my
great
god,
music.
some of the best music of the year.
It's just overall the entire package is for me. I think on my list it was the third 10 out of 10 that I gave this year.
The only 10 out of 10 I gave this year.
I gave 10 out of 10s.
You're a little easy with that 10 out of 10.
Considering this is probably the second year that I've given a 10 out of 10, I don't know about that.
You haven't been reviewing that long.
No, I mean, sorry, on my personal thing.
What do you mean?
Like my list, you know how I like put numbers, I rate that.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet, even with me and Connor having an extra year or two on you, you've given more 10 out of 10s than both of us.
I'm struggling to think of how many
You
I've had,
gave
but
Spider-Man a 10 out of 10. I didn't
I
give it a
did.
10 out of 10.
I did. I stand
Spider-Man
by
1
that.
or 2.
Spider-Man 2. I stand by that. For what the type of game Spider-Man is, nailed it. Yeah, Astrobot is also my number 2. Phil, I'm gonna skip your number 1 and then end with you.
Okay.
Just because of ease of conversation.
We know
Yeah.
what it is.
Astrobot.
No shit.
For all the reasons Phil
Everyone
just
shut
laid
up
out.
about it.
For all the reasons Astrobot just you fucked me up with that.
Sorry.
For all the reasons Phil just said, Astrobot is really a masterpiece. It's really incredible what Team Asobi was able to do, how quickly they were able to do it, and yeah, I love this game from stem to stern. There's nothing about this game that I don't like. Outside of like just a preference of who I would have liked to have made cameos in this game. You could always add more. They've added the Spider-Man since I last picked it up and so forth. Yeah, where's the fucking Cooper gang? Where are the infamous characters? Y'all, where are the Ghost of Tsushima characters? Why do y'all not like Sucker
They
Punch?
have infamous characters.
Why do you not like Sucker Punch?
Yeah, I thought I saw them.
There's literally 3.
The wrong ones.
Oh, never satisfied.
I
this
just
guy.
want Zeke. That's all I want. I just want Zeke.
Ooh, Zeke.
Yeah, he's Cole
friend of Cole's.
He's Cole's best friend. Yeah. Literally the heart of the games. Yeah, from level design to music to like just the amount of fun in the game, the cheeriness of the game. It's just such a
Makes me smile.
it's such a bright game to play. You're happy playing it. Again, like, you know what? This game has a lot in common with Silent Hill 2.
Pyramid Head's in it. They're in both. It's in both.
Where who?
Pyramid Head.
Pyramid Head is in
Is it?
both. Look at that. Pyramid Head, total disappointment for me. I don't understand why Pyramid Head is Pyramid Head.
Kind of an overrated thing.
Yeah, Mr. X is way
Definitely
more
overblown, yeah.
impactful.
The opening scene with him is like, I think the key reason why he became so iconic.
See, I thought that scene was super awkward.
That was great. I thought it was.
You know,
creepy
the
as
only
shit.
scene that I was like, oh, I like what they're doing here is I think it's the last time you see him where he like bursts out the wall and you got to like lure him down a hallway so that you can. That was his best appearance.
That was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not in the original game. I don't think.
I couldn't tell you. But like how Silent Hill is a dreadful game to play 100%, this is a cheerful game to play 100%. Also the secrets, the sacred symbol levels are
Incredible.
awesome. So badass. That's where really the challenge is in all of those sacred symbol secret levels. Is all of those where like you're like, oh, this level is gonna kick my ass, and I'm gonna be here for the next. I'm gonna be here for the next 10 minutes, like
It's
just trying to
a
nail
gauntlet
this,
with no checkpoints.
nail these jumps right here.
Those get particularly hard past the second world.
I mean, I think
I remember the triangle levels giving me a lot of trouble.
I can't remember which one specifically. I always think of the final gauntlet, but I know that I had issues with the other one.
The final gauntlet's the hardest of them, for
I
sure.
imagine, yeah.
But but there were specific ones throughout the game. There's also more than one per world.
Oh, I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's 4 per world.
Is there 4?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, the progression of it was harder going into the second from the first. So I was like, I'm guessing it gets harder.
I remember the triangle ones giving me trouble, but I think that's the second one, isn't
It's
it?
second, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The circle ones gave me trouble too.
Mm.
It just depends. Like from a design perspective, from a mechanical perspective, from an execution perspective, I don't think there. I think Astrobot nails 100% what it is trying to do. I also think it's really easy to overlook the style of Astrobot. Astrobot's got a great style. Astrobot's character design is a little generic, you know, like with the rest of the stuff. But like the way that they've crafted their world and how it all just kind of makes sense and
How it
connects.
connects. Like you have like the giant robot that it's kind of like your big brother.
Yeah, all of it like just kind of functions when you know. There's a lot of like ancient like pyramids and hieroglyphics and stuff right next to robots, and it works. So like
It's not jarring. Yeah.
it's a very underrated point of the game is that its style is very, very, very good. It's just so easy to overlook it.
Cohesion of it is
Yeah,
really good.
well, yes, but like I genuinely think just the style, the look of the game is charming.
Also, to the point of Astrobot's design, it's simple, it's snappy, and it's able to be, you know, things are able to be molded around it. I mean, you guys talked about how you love the PlayStation aspect.
Put the skins on.
All of that was as able to be done as much as it was because of Astrobot's inherent design.
Rita, don't turn me into marketable plushie. Don't do it.
The only thing I would have done is at the very end,
Again,
there's an opportunity to update his design, and I wish they had done it. That's my only thing. I'm like, there's some missed potential here. I like his little cape.
Cape's nice, yeah.
Cape. I like that he runs hip forward. One of those guys. This is really good. Yeah, Astrobot is a lovely game. Connor,
Yes.
number 1.
Yours and my number 1. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Spoilers.
Oh, it's not a spoiler. Yeah, this is one of my favorite games of all time. It's become one of my favorite games of all time. It has carried it over from Remake, one of the greatest, I think, in my opinion, combat system, just amped up just a little bit extra with all the extra characters that you get. Yuffie, you know, even though you played her in the DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake, I felt like I enjoyed playing her more in this one with all of the uses that she has. In addition to being with the other party members, you have obviously we have Kate Sith, but you know, Kate Sith is Kate Sith. But then Red 13, you know, sick as fuck character, you know, iconic characters to play that just feel so satisfying to mess around with, while taking place in a world that is just chock full of fun shit to do, fun-ass minigames, fun-ass side quests. Sometimes they lead to something cool. Sometimes they're just little one-off things. You know, whatever. The narrative is fantastic. The very few games are able to make you finish a game and then just make you wonder about it after you finish it. You know, the moment I finished that game, me and Tavin did a review, and I couldn't really put much of my thoughts well because I was just reeling from what I had just experienced.
So it's such a crazy final 2 hours.
Yes, and
Exciting.
It's like the first one. It gives you that breadcrumb trail to follow to the next one.
Okay.
To, you know, what are you going to do then?
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Indeed. It's visually beautiful. An increase from the original game with all of the vistas you're able to see. Some great voice acting at work here. Being able to take this new direction of Final Fantasy VII and not only add new stuff to it, but elaborate on things that were incredibly bare bones or, almost non-existent in the original.
If a leaf fell in the original game, there's a 10-hour side quest to it.
Exactly. And it's kind of amazing they took the first game. I should probably stop talking about the first game entirely, talk about the merits of this new one, but taking a small portion of an original game and blowing it up to a grander proportion, and then doing it with an even larger part of the original game and still blowing it up to proportion even more is, peak remake, and it's near peak gaming as well. Once again, just that combat system, it feels so fun and snappy to play. The progression of equipment, progression of materia, progression of summons and whatnot, always some little trail to follow, and it's seriously a standout game this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is also my game of the year. I love this game. This is one of the greatest video games ever made, and I'm continuously impressed what they've been able to do with this remake trilogy. I think it functions in two ways: one as a remake and a introduction to Final Fantasy VII, but also a bit of a sequel as well. Yeah. And the way that they're able to balance those is a little annoying because they just wait till the last 45 minutes to give it to you. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate that. And yeah, the meat on the bone here is incredible. I'm going to echo pretty much everything you said here, Connor. That combat system is one of the best of all time. Any issues that I kind of have with Remake get addressed here in Rebirth, and really allow it to elevate it and put it on a level of quality that, I think you can't compete with it. Like it is amongst the greats. I think this game was pretty slept on this year. And what they're continuously doing with this series is one of the most ambitious things I've ever seen in gaming. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, as you pointed out previously, and kind of how I did talking about the game, it hinges on playing that first game. So it's kind of hard. It's hard to carry over the same level of excitement from the first game to a second.
I'll say
to it.
I don't believe you need to play the original game to get what's going on here. It helps, but you don't need it. You do need to play Remake before you play Rebirth. Yeah. Like, that's just a important thing. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's great and not great at the same time because you can't jump straight to what I think is the best part of this trilogy so far. But at the same time, that first game's awesome also. So, like, you've now got 120 hours of badass video game to play. Rebirth can be way much more than that if you want. Connor, you mentioned, after you're done, you just kind of want to keep exploring and keep finding out more about the world. One thing that I didn't get in the review is sort of the repetitiveness and how uninspired the open world activities are. But there's so much of it, and all of it is given a purpose. There's nothing there that's like, oh, you're doing this to increase a number or something, right? Like, every little side thing you can do in that game advances the lore, advances the world, advances a narrative, shines more light on something that you didn't know existed before. And my experience with that game, my first time through, of just playing it and being like kind of bored by the open world stuff and not mainlining it, but mostly doing the main story stuff. And I would play around with the open world stuff when I wanted to or whatever, but then doubling back and clearing that map afterwards. Just being allowed to live in that world for longer. This is the ultimate love letter to a fan that you could ever have. Its ending, I still think, sucks. But if it is as ambitious as I believe it to be, it's queuing up for what will be the most mindfuck Part 3 that we will ever see in games. I'm super, super excited for the next chapter. And I think they've been pretty smart about it because these first two chapters are arguably the most beloved parts of the original game. Yeah. That third part gets a little weird and psychedelic, and there's a good chance a majority or a good percentage of players never saw it. So, if weird things happen in the first 10 hours of part 3, I'd be down with it. If we get an entirely different ending, I'd be down with it just because y'all have done so good so far. So I'm just down for whatever you have. Or if it's just remake part 3 and then it gets a little weird at the end again, hey, I've got a classic trilogy of remake games of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
You know,
I kind of feel as though I should have just gone back to back 2 and 1, and then we could have ended with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I feel that. But go ahead, give us your game of the year.
My game of the year, and if you at all tune into our podcast in the past, you know I just would not shut the fuck up about this game. Anytime we had the piggy bank on, or anytime we talked about my favorite games of all time, because it made that list at I think it's my new number 10 for my favorite games of all time. Unicorn Overlord.
Hey!
Absolutely fucking snubbed at the Game Awards for Best Sim Strategy. Fuck you,
I can't comment.
Council.
I can't comment.
I was hoping you'd play more. So honestly,
Played a good amount.
sure, I would have been upset if you left Astrobot off your list, but I would have liked to at least have one other person with Unicorn Overlord on their top 10 list. But alas, I am alone in my love for this masterpiece of a game. This is, I want to say, one of, like, I was so bought into this game that, like, within almost, like, right after I finished the Platinum on the PS5 version, I immediately started a new playthrough on the PS4 version to Platinum it again. And it's just a blast. I love the characters. I love the gameplay. This just really speaks to the tactical RPG lover within me. I think my first real taste of the tactics RPG was Fire Emblem Three Houses, to then Fire Emblem Engage, which, you know, a little bit less quality-wise from Three Houses between us, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that's like...
Little bit less.
Sure, I'm like, okay, there are quality of life things in Engage that are definitely better than Three Houses, but like story-wise and characters, no, doesn't hold a candle. But like, I just immediately fell in love with this world, with it. It's a very bare bones story because it's, you know, as you're a prince separated from your kingdom because it was taken over by
Evil guy in armor.
Evil ruler, and you have to go and take back your country. But it's just I love the art in this game. I love the music in this game. I love the kind of like nitty gritty you can get into in assigning abilities to your units, and the different characters that can interact within the units. And it's just, God,
it's a very in-depth combat system.
And it just feels so good to, like, when you have like a good synergy in a unit, it's just chef's kiss, you know. It just feels so good to master those mechanics and to get the right items on your characters within the units to then push them even further to be like powerful units against other enemy units. And it's just, I think this has really cemented the tactics RPG as like probably one of my favorite genres.
They're super fun to play.
Yeah.
They're super, you know, accessible across the board. You know, my issue with Unicorn Overlord is the same one I had with Dragon's Dogma 2, which is that I felt like the world could have been more in focus and the characters more in focus, to where they didn't feel like they're just kind of not nameless, useless people, but people that had more character. They had more standing within the game itself.
I get you. It's really nice when you get into some of the characters you can find throughout the country, and then when you increase your like friendship level with them, I like a lot of the interactions. There are like this might be one of the most like one of the biggest lists of like romanceable like characters. Like you can end up with virtually anybody in the game. I want to say if you're I think you can pretty much end up with any of them. Some of the relationships aren't necessarily like husband and wife or like boyfriend and girlfriend in nature. It becomes
mutual respect.
Yeah, so one of them is like a brotherly kind of relationship. One of them is like a mentor and a student, like surrogate father and son type relationship that you can end up with. But I love the variety and like just the different ways that characters can interact with each other. Sure, there are some moments with some of the side characters where like their interactions with each other can be a little lacking. But like with the main protagonists, they have so many of so many different interactions with the main character, and some of the interactions for side characters are more in depth than some of the interactions with this character and the main character. Like there's a lot of backstory that you can unlock with certain characters that we didn't know interacted before, outside of like one single line of dialogue that was like, we were in the same battalion or whatever when we were training, like growing up as like small soldiers, right?
Right.
And just seeing the deepness that they show you in those relationships as you progress them, it's just really satisfying. And I just loved exploring this world and living in it and taking back my goddamn country and then marrying my dark-skinned elf wife.
She is hot. Very hot.
Okay.
I will say that was, again, maybe I didn't get to the depths you did with interacting with all those characters and having all those support conversations, because I felt like that was the thing that was just preventing me from getting into them more, being too surface level.
The only issue I have with them, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, you did?
Like,
That's good.
Okay. I wish that more of them were voiced.
Yeah, that would benefit greatly. Then again, it's hard to do what Three Houses did, which is have as much as they did. Though it would certainly benefit from it if they had been able to accomplish something like that.
I think a good 85 to 90% of the support conversation is not voiced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be better if they were. Easily.
For our final segment of the day, our official TwoPennyGames Game of the Year list for 2024. I tabulated this list by combining all three of our lists. I assigned point values for each position on the list. So number 1 is worth 1 point. Number 1 is worth 10 points. Number 10 is worth 1 point. And for the first time ever, gentlemen, every entry on our lists made the list this year.
The master list.
The absolute master list. This was achieved because there was more ties this year than ever before, including our first ever three-way tie, which happened 3 times.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of games on this list, but the list is as follows. Number 10, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero with 1 point. Number 9, Plucky Squire and a tie with Sonic X Shadow Generations at 2 points. Number 8, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom at 5 points. Number 7, Tekken 8 at 6 points. Number 6, our first three-way tie between Marvel Rivals, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 at 8 points. And number 5, another three-way tie, Silent Hill 2, Persona 3 Reload, and Metaphor ReFantazio at 9 points. Number 4, Unicorn Overlord at 10 points.
Let's go!
Number 3, Balatro at 11 points. And number 2 is another three-way tie with the biggest jump in points in the list at 19 points from 11. We have Astrobot, Helldivers 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Connor, you fucked Astrobot and Prince of Persia.
True.
And number 1 at 20 points, just 1 point above all three of those, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Definitive.
No, it's lame because it wasn't even on my list.
If you played it, it would have been. It would have been high, and it still probably would have been our definitive number 1.
Well,
if that had happened, But Astrobot, you son of a bitch.
Yep.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for your Gamescast.
You should be more upset at Prince of Persia.
I think he is.
I'm not. No, I'm more upset about Astrobot. Prince of Persia, I don't like it 7. There are games higher in his list that should be lower than Prince of Persia, but 7 is fine.
All right.
He just needs a better 6 through 2. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for your Gamescast this week. Thank you so much for watching along with us. Thank you for everybody in the chat who is listening to us just go on and on for over 2 hours about the video games of 2024. Lay them out in the comments below. What are your top 10 games of 2024? And let us know how you feel about all of our lists here on the panel. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with a friend, drop a comment down below, and follow us on all of our social medias. Links are in the description down below. And keep an eye out for this next week's Piggy Bank. We are doing our Fantasy Critic Draft. Very fun episode of that. Very exciting. You would know that if you watched us over at twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames. But until next time, have a great time. And gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Have
See
a
you
great
next year.
day.